Junoo Kim, a triple S-rank hunter, returns from a dangerous dungeon raid and finds himself surrounded by reporters hungry for answers. Rumors about an international invitation are already spreading, but before he can respond, a citizen steps forward and accuses him of assaulting a cleaning staff member. The media erupts with questions. The association rushes into emergency meetings. Kim, filled with rage, walks away, determined to crush anyone who stands in his way. On his way home, a truck suddenly rushes toward him. As soon as he gets out of the car, the traps activate. He tries to fight back, but anti-superpower devices shut him down. Despite all his strength, Kim is overpowered and shot. Instead of the end, it's a reset. His hidden skill karma activated. He wakes up 10 years in the past, gasping. His body ached all over as he muttered about the terrible dream and wondered how long he had been asleep. As he looked around, confusion clouded his face. The room was unfamiliar. It was tiny, barely larger than a pigsty. Certainly not his house. Even his bathroom was more spacious. It couldn't be Miss Lee's place either. She wouldn't let him inside even if the world was ending. He had no idea where he was. Suddenly, a translucent window appeared before his eyes. The system message read, "Death confirmed. Your death has successfully unlocked a hidden skill." Seeing this, Kim could only scoff in disbelief. Then he turned toward a mirror and froze. The reflection staring back at him was his younger self, Junoo Kim, age 28. His face and body, everything, matched the man he was a decade ago. The system revealed more. The skill he had unlocked was called Karma, triggered by his death. It explained that the skill had sent him 10 years back in time and could not be deactivated at will. Realization hit him hard. It hadn't been a dream. He had actually died. Another system message appeared. With the activation of the new skill, he had been assigned a new career. Memories rushed back. At age 28, he had already achieved the rank of A-class hunter. He was ranked 22nd in the country and 525th in the world. If he had truly gone back 10 years, then he should have been on his way to becoming one of the top hunters, respected, admired, and full of potential. But the system had other plans. His new career was not that of a hunter, but a dungeon cleaner. Then came the real blow. The condition to deactivate Karma was revealed. He had to become the Secretary General of the International Superpower Association within 5 years. If he succeeded, the skill would deactivate and he would return to the moment before his death. If he failed, he would perish completely. The countdown had already started. 4 years, 11 months, 29 days, 20 hours, 32 minutes, and 48 seconds remained. The weight of the condition left him stunned. Becoming the Secretary General meant reaching the most powerful position in the world, greater even than the President of the United States. The association controlled all superpower organizations worldwide. He admitted to himself that the goal was out of reach. Even as the world's first SSS rank hunter, becoming the Secretary General in just 5 years seemed impossible. It wasn't about a lack of desire, it was simply beyond belief. Yet, the system was clear. His only path to life lay through this position. With no other option, he decided that becoming a hunter again was his best chance. With his previous skills, reaching SSS rank should be easy. But when he checked his skill panel, all his hunter abilities were locked. Frustrated, he cursed the karma system. Just then, a new notification appeared. He had acquired a skill. A glimmer of hope lit his eyes, until he read what it was. A passive skill named, "Get Cleaning, You Moron." His frustration deepened. Lying back on the bed, he tried to make sense of everything. He had returned 10 years in time, only to become a dungeon cleaner. His past achievements had vanished, and his skills were sealed. He wondered if he truly had to go through with the cleaning job. As a former SSS rank tanker, it felt like a blow to his pride. But more than that, he needed to find out who killed him. The group responsible had been highly trained. They might have been a civilian guild, or maybe sent by the association itself. Just then, his phone rang. He picked up the call, and a man introduced himself as his boss, Park. The man asked if Kim was coming in to work today, mentioning that he was already an hour late. He also noted that the previous dungeon had been quite a tough one. Kim silently recalled his new assignment, being a dungeon cleaner, all thanks to karma. Park chuckled and assured him that today's task wouldn't be as hard. In the background, another man scoffed, calling Kim a coward who had ditched the job. A second voice tried to calm things down, but the first man continued, complaining about being kept waiting and calling Kim useless. Kim, still on the call, heard it all. Anger simmered inside him. Even dungeon cleaners were looking down on him now. Park snapped at the others to be quiet, saying Kim must have had a good reason. He told Kim to take it easy today, but to give a heads up next time. Kim responded that he understood. Before ending the call, Park told him to save his number under the name Juntai Park. Hearing the name, Kim was momentarily surprised and asked him to repeat it. Park laughed, saying it wasn't easy to remember, and repeated his full name again. Then he told Kim to rest and let him know if he'd come in next week. But Kim, determined and without hesitation, said he was coming in now. Park, confused, asked again what he had said. Kim repeated firmly. He was coming in. Sitting inside the bus, Kim was lost in thought. He couldn't believe he had no wearable clothes and was even more shocked that there wasn't a Bentley waiting outside. Left with no choice, he had to take a cab but didn't have a single penny in his wallet. The once great Junwoo Kim, now forced to ride a bus. The situation was infuriating. He never imagined such a downfall in his past life. This shift also meant his relationships had changed. In this timeline, he had no confrontation with Juntae Park. For now, there was nothing between them. But if Park was responsible for his death, that would change everything. He needed an explanation. His death wasn't random. It was orchestrated. A superpower seizure device had been used to prevent him from using his abilities. The weapon that killed him wasn't ordinary. It was the Titan, a high-class firearm used to burn monsters. With its immense cost and advanced tech, a simple dungeon cleaner like Park couldn't possibly possess it. But Park's grudge against him might have led him to hire a professional. Park's son also had deep resentment toward Kim. All Kim did was give the boy a slight push, and they called it assault. Things could have been different if they had simply listened. The memory of a past encounter surfaced. In that moment, Park had pleaded with Kim to take something back. Kim hadn't recognized him at first. Park had introduced himself as the cleaning team leader and explained that he heard Kim had suggested a cut in the cleaning team. Park argued they were already short on staff and couldn't afford further reductions. But Kim made it clear that he merely made a suggestion. He had no authority in the matter. That decision belonged to the control team. Park insisted, saying everyone in the industry knew how influential Kim was. The association heavily depended on him, and reducing the cleaning staff probably wouldn't even affect him much. He begged Kim to reconsider the cutbacks. Kim recalled knowing that word about his suggestion would spread, but he didn't expect Park to confront him directly. Judging by Park's expression, he knew this conversation would drag on. Kim then used a metaphor, explaining how lizards cut off their tails to survive. It was painful and inefficient, but it was their only chance at survival, a true last resort. Park responded by saying they weren't the tail. Kim found it ironic. Everyone liked to believe they were important. But the association was facing a major financial crisis. There were talks of cutting top hunters' salaries. When Park accused him of pushing the cuts for his own benefit, Kim justified it by saying hunters protected the citizens and carried the real burden. As Kim turned to leave, he explained that working hard for nothing made no sense. Apologizing, he said they had no other option. Park, angry, shouted back, questioning Kim's conscience and reminding him of the effort cleaners put in. Kim dismissed cleaning as simple work and suggested they could always hire more people later. Park declared they took pride in their job. Kim agreed, saying they should have made cuts earlier. Now, they were paying the price. He believed Park would understand eventually. Park countered, reminding Kim that cleaners were citizens too, and pleaded for him to reconsider. Kim stepped closer and coldly explained that people like Park should be thankful. They didn't risk their lives like hunters did. Cleaners only cleaned up the mess and still earned money. Yet they kept demanding more. To Kim, they were parasites. Hearing this, Park's anger exploded. He grabbed Kim by the collar, demanding he repeat what he said. Kim responded by shoving Park, causing him to crash into a wall. Furious, Kim called Miss Lee and ordered her to deal with the parasite, reminding her he had warned her not to involve him in such matters. The scene shifted to the present. Kim had arrived at the site and recognized it immediately. A yellow-level dungeon, categorized among high-risk levels. Its boss was the Foxtrot Centipede. He had once conquered this dungeon at the age of 28. That confirmed it. He had truly traveled 10 years back. In the distance, Park spotted him and called out. Kim looked at him with a serious expression, identifying him immediately. Juntae Park, the dungeon cleaner. Kim looked at Park and noted how he appeared to be the same middle-aged man in a cheap, worn-out uniform, just as he remembered. He didn't look like someone capable of committing murder. Park pointed towards Kim, showing him to the others, and confidently stated that he knew Kim would show up. He believed in Kim's dependability from the moment they first met. One of the team members, Sang-hyuk Han, dismissed the praise, claiming Kim only came because he got caught trying to escape. Another member, Huijang Lim, remarked that Kim didn't do any work the last time, simply because he claimed he couldn't handle it. Soyeon Moon, the only woman in the group, questioned Park's insistence on bringing Kim, saying the four of them were enough. Park cut them off and got straight to business, asking Sang-hyuk about their remaining time. Sang-hyuk informed him they only had 45 minutes left. Park was shocked, and Sang-hyuk sarcastically suggested they thank Kim for putting them an hour behind schedule. Park urged everyone to hurry before they received another scolding. Handing Kim a respirator, Park said it should fit just fine. Kim looked at it, puzzled. Park asked if there was an issue. Kim responded that it wasn't necessarily a problem, but asked what dungeon cleaners actually did. At that moment, the story provided context about the Korea Association of Supernatural Ability Management, commonly known as the Association. It was made up of 4 teams: the Command and Control Team, the Hunter Support Team, the Strategy and Operation Team, and the Dungeon Cleaning Team. The Command and Control Team monitored dungeon openings and collected relevant data. The Hunter Support Team was responsible for producing weaponry and items for the conquests. The Strategy and Operation Team handled combat and terminated monsters inside dungeons. The last was the Cleaning Team, which Kim had no prior knowledge about. As the team prepared to enter the dungeon, Kim observed their chatter and wondered why they were pretending to be so busy. Then, changing direction suddenly, he started moving elsewhere. Park called out, warning him he'd get into trouble for wandering off alone. Kim responded that he thought they were heading toward the boss's room. Park confirmed but pointed in the opposite direction, telling Kim to follow him. Kim pointed toward a different path, insisting it was the correct way. Sung-hyuk was confused and frustrated, asking what Kim was talking about. Soyeon told Kim to back out if he wasn't up for it. Huijang, growing impatient, said they didn't have time for this and should ignore Kim. Sung-hyuk handed Kim a dungeon map provided by the control team and told him to look at it and locate the boss's room. Kim considered that previously subdued dungeons were always mapped out by the hunters who completed the conquest. Since the map was from the control team, it should be error-free. Yet after reviewing it, Kim declared the map was incorrect and pointed in the direction he believed was accurate. He criticized the control team for failing to do their job properly. Sung-hyuk whispered to Park, asking if Kim was high. Park asked Kim what made him so sure. Kim started to explain but stopped himself, realizing no one would believe him anyway. He brushed it off and told them to lead the way. The team resumed walking. Park then pointed out the time left before the dungeon would close and asked Kim if he had heard about that before. Kim realized what Park meant. All dungeons perish after a conquest, usually within 2 hours. Hunters didn't worry about this since they left once the mission ended. However, it was important for the cleaning team, whose work began only after the conquest. Kim still didn't understand the need to clean a dungeon that was going to disappear anyway. Park laughed and explained that a subdued dungeon didn't simply vanish. It entered a resting phase until a new monster eventually took over. Kim acknowledged this. Park elaborated that if a dungeon reopened, filled with monster carcasses, it would be dangerous. Hunters could lose their way during the conquest, and the gas from decomposing monsters could be fatal to humans. The more carcasses there were, the higher the risk. That was why the cleaning team's role was crucial. Their job was to make sure hunters could focus entirely on the conquest. Without the cleaners, the hunters themselves wouldn't be able to function safely. Their duties included cleaning monster remains, removing byproducts, and ensuring no trace of previous hunter activity remained. On rare occasions, rescuing stranded hunters could also fall under their responsibilities, though such situations hadn't occurred before. Kim immediately dismissed the thought. In his entire life, he had never heard of a cleaner rescuing a hunter, but maybe these people weren't just wasting time after all. Soon they reached a large gate. Sung-hyuk announced that, according to the map, this should be the boss's room. Moving ahead confidently, he pushed open the gate, only to freeze in surprise. It wasn't the boss room after all. Kim couldn't help but point it out. He had been right the whole time. Even Huijang had to admit it. The group gathered to reassess the situation. Sung-hyuk turned to Park, suggesting they should call it a day since there was nothing they could do here. Park asked how much time was left. Sung-hyuk checked and replied, 22 minutes. Park believed it was enough time and looked to the team for their thoughts. Sung-hyuk agreed it was worth a shot. Soyeon noted that the decision was unanimous. They decided to keep moving. Kim, still confused, asked what Park meant by enough time. Park smiled and clarified, enough time to get back to work. At the very least, they needed to finish what they had started. Kim was shocked. With only 22 minutes left, he reminded them that once the dungeon closed, the earliest it could reopen was a week. In the worst-case scenario, it might take an entire year. Park responded with a casual smile, saying they could just chill inside if that happened. It was no big deal. Kim knew what that meant. Being trapped inside a dungeon for a whole year was a death sentence. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Risking their lives for a cleaning job? It was insane. But Park remained unfazed. He told Kim to say something he didn't already know and urged everyone to get moving. As the others marched forward, Sung-hyuk looked back and told Kim he was free to leave. No one had expected much from him anyway. One by one, everyone left Kim behind. Standing alone, Kim reflected on his past. 15 years as a hunter. Not a single failed conquest. The first to achieve SSS rank worldwide. The first to earn the title of #1. No one had ever looked down on his dungeon record. Yet now, he was being judged by a group of low-level cleaners. A laugh escaped him. Then he called out to the group, mentioning a narrow path from this room. Sung-hyuk scoffed, assuming Kim was making things up again. But Kim snapped back, shouting at him to shut up and listen. The boss's room was only 500 meters away. If they took the shortcut, they could reach it in 8 minutes, maybe even 5 if they ran. His words shocked everyone. This time, Kim took charge. He declared that he would lead. Anyone who had complaints was free to walk away. With that, he dashed ahead, and soon, the others followed him. Eventually, Kim stopped in front of another gate. When they entered, they were stunned. Inside lay the corpse of a massive boss monster, the foxtrot centipede. It towered over 10 meters in size. Sung-hyuk admitted that Kim had been right again. This was indeed the boss's room. Looking at the scene, Kim analyzed the situation. The battle must have been intense. At least 5 or 6 hunters likely lost their lives. Surprisingly, they had managed to strike its vital spot, the creature's dented forehead above its enormous jaw. Sung-hyuk announced there was no time to waste and urged everyone to begin dismantling the monster. But Kim stepped in, trying to stop him. Sung-hyuk didn't understand and demanded to know what Kim was doing. He assumed Kim was trying to get back at him for earlier insults. Before the argument could continue, the supposedly dead boss monster suddenly began to move. Everyone froze in disbelief. It was still alive. The subjugated boss had somehow come back to life. Kim's eyes widened. There was no doubt now, this was a serious problem. Kim looked at the monster and realized that without his skills, he had no chance of defeating it. But before he could do anything, the monster suddenly collapsed to the ground. Kim figured it must have been rigor mortis and blamed the strategy and operation team for slacking off on their job. Just then, Huijang approached and assumed it was Kim's first time seeing a boss monster. He told Kim to step back, thinking he had frozen in fear. Kim, offended, questioned him, but Huijang insisted on handling it. Kim grew angry, wondering if Huijang was shutting him down on purpose. Without a word, Kim snatched the knife from Huijang's hand, called it ridiculous, and confidently walked toward the dead monster. The others asked what Kim thought he was doing. Kim reminded them they said they were dismantling and told them to watch and learn. He explained precisely how the knife only fit into the 3rd, 6th, and 12th points on the monster's outer shell and wouldn't go in anywhere else. He warned them about the live nerves and told them not to be scared of the wriggling while dismantling. Everyone was shocked watching Kim work. Kim asked if they planned to just stand there and watch. Park snapped out of it and called everyone to get to work. Kim continued guiding them, explaining how to push the knife in first before sliding it up, warning them not to stab aimlessly. He told them to avoid touching the tail since many hunters had died from its poison, and warned that although the blood wasn't poisonous, it was extremely sticky. Sang-hyuk turned to Park and asked if he had shown Kim the control team's file to boost his ego. Park denied it. Sang-hyuk found it hard to believe a rookie cleaner could be this skilled. Park insisted the file didn't even contain that level of detail. Confused, Sang-hyuk wondered where Kim could have gotten all that information. At that moment, a system notification informed Kim that he had unlocked a new passive skill, OCD. With that, the dismantling was completed. Kim felt an unexpected wave of satisfaction but quickly questioned why he was feeling that way. Park, visibly impressed, praised Kim and asked if it really was his first time. Sang-hyuk admitted Kim wasn't bad for a rookie. Soyeon pointed out that Kim had done all the work alone. Kim, however, dismissed the task as just cleaning. Nothing big. Park joked to Sang-hyuk that they had a promising cleaner among them and that he better stay sharp. Sang-hyuk brushed off the remark, clearly annoyed. Sang-hyuk then checked his watch and urged everyone to move out, stating they only had 5 minutes left. The group started walking away. Park, still impressed, mentioned how things worked out better than expected, all thanks to Kim. But then Kim's foot got stuck. Looking down, he noticed his boot covered in blood and thought it must have leaked from a hole in one of the sacks. Sang-hyuk teased him for stepping in the blood. Kim told him to stop making a fuss and asked for some space. In his mind, Kim realized this creature's blood was more than just adhesive. He remembered even during his hunter days, he couldn't escape it. But now, with his skill, it should melt under high heat. Kim attempted to use his Hellfire skill, only to be informed by the system that it was currently locked. Realizing the situation, he muttered to himself that he was screwed. Seeing this, Park turned to Huijang and asked if he had brought ropes. Huijang quickly tied a rope around Kim's waist, and the group began pulling together. Despite their efforts, Kim didn't budge. Park asked for the remaining time. Sang-hyuk informed him they had just 1 minute left. Park called out to pull again on the count of 3. Then, without hesitation, he told Kim to remove his hazmat suit. Soyeon protested, saying gas levels were too high and it was dangerous. Park shouted back, asking if she'd rather everyone get trapped inside. Kim, confused, wondered why they were willing to risk themselves for him. He compared them to lizards that cut off their tails to survive, thinking these people were even more foolish than that. Still, he began removing his hazmat suit. Park ordered everyone to leave. Sang-hyuk asked what his plan was. Park replied that those who still had a chance must survive. Sang-hyuk refused, stating he would rather stay. But Park shouted that it was an order. Hearing this, Sang-hyuk reluctantly started walking away, announcing that 10 seconds remained. With only a few seconds left, Park rushed to Kim and helped him remove the suit. Then the two of them began sprinting toward the exit. With 5 seconds remaining, the others had already exited the dungeon. As the timer hit 0, the dungeon gate shut, but Kim and Park made it out just in time. Seeing them escape safely, the rest of the group erupted in relief and happiness. Kim stood there overwhelmed by the thought that he had almost lost his life, just from cleaning up monster carcasses in an empty dungeon. At that moment, Park extended a hand toward him, asking if he was all right. Kim grasped it and confirmed he was fine. Park expressed relief, saying the gas levels weren't as dangerous as expected, and apologized for such a harsh experience on Kim's very first cleanup task. He tried to lighten the mood by calling it a learning experience, but Kim, still shaken, thought to himself that he had barely survived. Curious, Kim asked what Park meant by first cleanup task. Park smiled, revealing that this was just the beginning. When Kim asked how many more cleanups were left, Park simply raised his hand with a grin. Seeing this, Kim's face dropped in disbelief. The narration then explained the harsh reality of their work. There were 8 strategy and operation teams in Seoul alone, and across Korea, a massive 96 teams in total. Including freelance hunters not officially registered, The nation had about 11,300 hunters. In contrast, there were only 5 cleaning teams in the entire country, totaling just 25 cleaners. This meant each team had to clean an average of 3.3 dungeons daily, and on unlucky days, up to 5. Today was clearly one of those unlucky days. Later, Park gathered everyone and suggested going for drinks to end the long day. They all stepped outside a bar. Park invited Kim to join them, saying he deserved a drink and even told him to pick the menu. But Kim refused, surprising the group. He reminded himself not to get too friendly with them, but then reconsidered. Food was food after all. He changed his mind and requested steak. Park, laughing, assured him he wouldn't be forced to drink. Still, Kim decided to leave and walked away. As he did, Soyeon thanked him for his hard work and said she'd see him tomorrow. That night, lying on his bed at home, Kim reflected on the day. He was certain Park couldn't have been the one who hired an assassin to kill him in his past life. Park was far too soft-hearted for that. So who could it be? He thought of possible enemies. Kwon Mo-young, a rookie he used to bully. Yoo-jin Min, his ex-girlfriend with whom he often fought. And Dong-hui Hwang from the control team, whom he had rough encounters with. The list of grudges seemed endless, and he realized that his killer might not even exist in this life. For proper revenge, he needed to deactivate the karma system and return to his past life. But to do that, he had to become the Secretary General of the International Superpower Association. If only he had his past skills, he could easily become a hunter or join the control team again. Suddenly, Kim remembered something and opened his system. He hadn't checked the requirements to unlock new skills. He read them and laughed bitterly. The first condition was that the average salary of dungeon cleaners had to exceed $46,000. The second required that job competition among cleaners exceed a ratio of 30:1. Furious, Kim realized every single requirement was centered around being a cleaner. The system demanded full commitment to this role. He angrily threw a bottle across his room. But then, looking at the mess around him, his OCD skill activated. Compelled by the urge, Kim began cleaning his room and then the entire house. After finishing, exhausted, he muttered for a break. At that moment, the system notified him. A requirement to unlock a skill had been met. The message confirmed it, show up at work, and declared that a new skill had been unlocked. Hyper Boost. A full week had passed, with Kim commuting by bus every morning. This meant he had now worked as a dungeon cleaner for 7 days. During that time, he had cleaned 25 dungeons, used up 6 bottles of disinfectant, and disassembled over 30 monsters. Yet, despite all that, he wondered how many skills he had actually unlocked. The system highlighted the Hyper Boost skill. It significantly increased the user's movement speed during battle. Kim reflected on how absurd it was that this skill was unlocked simply by showing up to work. Though it was an efficient movement skill without an attack skill to pair it with, it held little value. Worse still, it was useless for cleaning, as it only activated during combat. Realistically, earning $60 million a year as a dungeon cleaner or making the job the most preferred career seemed impossible. Everyone knew dungeon cleaning was one of the most extreme jobs out there. Some of the skill requirements seemed a bit more achievable. The system listed them: interest from association leaders for unlocking 1 counter, and a budget increase for unlocking Hellfire. Among these, getting the attention of the association leaders seemed most doable. With Kim's knowledge as a former SSS ranking hunter, he believed he could provide advice useful for the next decade. That would surely catch their attention. However, he doubted they would believe him so easily. For a moment, he thought about reaching out to his former teammates to gain their trust. But with over 1 million hunters out there, he realized it wasn't a practical idea. Continuing this way, he feared he might be stuck as a cleaner forever. As he stared out the bus window, he suddenly panicked, realizing he had missed his stop. Arriving late at the worksite, Kim noticed only 2 people were present and wondered why the others weren't there. Sang-hyuk mentioned that not everyone was like Kim and that the boss had gone to get more disinfectant. Soyeon explained that Huijang was taking some time off for personal reasons. Kim was irritated they were 10 minutes behind schedule and couldn't believe the timing. But Sang-hyuk pointed out that Kim himself was 10 minutes late. Kim admitted missing his stop. With a smile, Sang-hyuk handed him a coffee and told him to drink it while waiting. Kim noticed a change in Sang-hyuk's attitude since the first day. He assumed Sang-hyuk was surprised he hadn't quit yet. Kim then asked about the delay and suggested they get a head start. Sang-hyuk responded that the others weren't done yet. Kim asked what they were doing and Sang-hyuk told him the conquest was still ongoing. Looking at the dungeon ahead, Kim realized he didn't recognize it. Judging by its appearance, it could only be an intermediate blue-level dungeon at most. It didn't seem very challenging, so he couldn't understand what was taking so long. Sitting to the side, he figured there wasn't much he could do and assumed it would be over soon. But 30 minutes passed. Kim's patience wore thin and his irritation grew. He muttered angrily, frustrated with how long it was taking. Just then, Soyeon spotted the hunters returning. They emerged from the dungeon in a badly injured state. Seeing them, Kim could only think of how unworthy they were of their salaries. Among the returning hunters, Kim noticed a girl with long, silky hair and pale, smooth skin. The sight startled him. He recognized her immediately. Minju Kim. She had once been a junior hunter on his team, but he couldn't understand what she was doing there. Minju looked directly at him and asked if he had something to say. Kim replied that he didn't. However, deep down he was furious. Of all people, why did it have to be her? Earlier, he had thought about contacting his former teammates, but she was an exception. That woman had always despised him for no reason. He recalled a time when he suggested she retire after a severe injury. Her reaction had been intense. She cursed him out harshly, despite his intentions being considerate. Her pride was nasty and unrelenting. Still, he admitted, she had undeniable potential as a hunter. As Kim stood silently, Soyeon turned to him and asked if he knew the hunter who had just walked out of the dungeon. She had noticed the way he was staring at her. Kim denied it, saying she just looked like someone he knew. Soyeon nodded but remarked that his intense frown had made her think the woman might be his ex. Hearing this, Kim grew irritated and snapped back, calling it nonsense. Just then, Park arrived and asked if something had happened. Kim replied that it was nothing, but Sang-hyuk, grinning, added that it was just Kim seeing his ex. This pushed Kim to shout at him to shut his mouth. Without wasting more time, Kim moved ahead and told everyone to stop fooling around and get back to work. They entered the dungeon, and Kim observed that it was a blue-level building dungeon. An entire building turned into a dungeon. Soyeon asked if he had researched this one too. Kim admitted he hadn't, only that the boss was a humanoid monster. He thought about how the team had been constantly bombarding him with questions about dungeons and monsters over the past week. He had been feeding them fake information, yet somehow, it seemed to convince them. Park gathered the team and reminded them that finding byproducts in a building dungeon was tough. Everyone was instructed to search every corner carefully and check for blood pools at the bottom of staircases. Then, Park told Kim to accompany him to the boss's room. Inside, they came across a corpse. Park expressed his dislike for humanoids, as they looked too much like human corpses. Kim identified the creature, a humanoid monster named Vega. It appeared female and was about 5'2" in height. Kim assessed that there was no need to dismantle this one. Park agreed and asked if something was wrong. Kim replied there was nothing, but something didn't sit right. He recalled that Vega wasn't a particularly dangerous monster. As long as one could dodge its quick movements, it was manageable. That's why he couldn't understand why Minju had struggled with it. A decade ago, she had been a B-ranked hunter. Though that might not sound like much, B-rankers were still powerful. Without her injury, she could have become an S-ranker. Kim remembered how skilled she was with a sword. Despite her stubborn nature, her technique had always been sharp and fast. She was not someone who would ever struggle against a blue-level boss. Park called out to Kim, asking if he planned to stand there all day and whether he expected Park to carry everything on his own. Kim snapped out of his thoughts and said he had just gotten lost thinking. He reminded himself that none of it mattered anymore. Minju was a stranger now. As Kim bent down and examined Vega's body, he noticed the knife wounds. Something about them made him pause. The marks seemed familiar. The realization hit him hard. Could it be Minju? Outside another dungeon, Kim stood waiting, lost in thought. It was 5 a.m. He had only slept for 2 hours, and this marked the third day in a row filled with nothing but bad luck. He hadn't been this busy even during his active hunter days. Frustrated, Kim complained to Park, wondering why they couldn't be called only after the dungeon was cleared. He questioned how long it was going to take. Park responded calmly, saying they wouldn't know until it was over, and that they should be used to this by now. Kim understood. It had already been an hour, and even he could tell Park was just as irritated. Soyeon, noticing Kim's drained expression, told him he looked exhausted. Kim admitted feeling a bit tired and asked how she was holding up. Despite looking worn out herself, Soyeon simply replied that she was all right. But Kim didn't believe it. She clearly didn't look okay. Moments later, hunters began exiting the dungeon. Among them, Kim's eyes immediately landed on Minju. He was stunned. Out of all the hunters and dungeons, he kept running into her again and again. Their eyes met for a brief moment before they both looked away. As Minju walked past, she muttered under her breath, wondering why he always got in her way. Kim felt anger rising within him. Then, his mind flashed back to the knife wounds he had seen on Vega's corpse. He wondered if he should tell her. But what was the point? He still hadn't moved on from the last words she had said to him. The memory pulled him into the past, to the hospital, where Minju lay recovering. Kim had come to see her. She was surprised to see him and greeted him. He asked about her condition. She responded that it hadn't been long since the surgery, so she wasn't sure yet. Kim scolded her for neglecting her health. He reminded her how he had told her to strengthen her left grip and blamed her overconfidence for the injury. Minju replied that he could have told her sooner. Kim didn't appreciate her tone and clarified he wasn't being spiteful, only concerned. He told her plainly she wouldn't last as a hunter with that injury. Handing her a retirement letter, Kim urged her to quit. Minju was shocked and asked what he meant. He told her that everyone in the association agreed. She shouldn't push herself any further and risk making things worse. Minju protested, insisting she could still manage and that it wasn't a big deal. She reminded him why she needed to remain a hunter. But Kim dismissed her claims, saying she'd only drag the team down. The decision had already been made. He accused her of hiding her pain and making things worse. When she asked him to speak clearly, he snapped back, confirming he wasn't inconsiderate. Minju responded that she had spoken up, many times. She had told him she needed to get checked, but he had brushed it off, saying others were sick too and she should continue working. Kim fired back, accusing her of acting like she was the only one in pain. Minju yelled that she had kept her injuries hidden because of him, and now he wanted her to quit. Kim shouted back, calling it nonsense and denying the blame. He reminded her that he wasn't the one who damaged her shoulder. She should have taken care of herself. What kind of fool ignored their injuries just because they were told to? Minju replied coldly that she was still capable and that rehabilitation would help her recover. Kim questioned who would cover for her while she was gone and pointed out that a swordsman with a bad shoulder couldn't do much. He sarcastically suggested she join the cleaning team. That's when Minju asked him if he had ever seen her as a partner. Kim was caught off guard and asked what she meant. She dismissed it, saying it was a stupid question and that she was probably just disposable to him anyway. Kim lost his temper. He yelled that she clearly didn't care anymore. He admitted he had never enjoyed her company and accused her of never taking his orders seriously. Now she was acting like she was smarter than him. Minju calmly agreed. She had never liked him as her boss. He never cared. He always looked down on them. That's the gaze he gave them every single time. Kim, filled with rage, dismissed her again and said he didn't care what she called him. Minju responded by slapping him and with bitter finality told him she hoped he would do better in his next life. She called him a son of a bitch before walking away. Back in the present, Kim stood in silence, remembering everything. He admitted to himself that he had said hurtful things. She had tried to tell him about her injury, but he couldn't even recall listening. Most likely he had told her to just suck it up without thinking twice. Now it was too late. He realized that if it weren't for the injury, Minju could have become a great hunter. He just never thought the consequences of that injury would show up this early. Kim called out to Minju. Surprised, she pointed to herself, asking if he meant her. Kim signaled toward her and gave her some advice. He told her to strengthen her left grip. Minju looked confused and asked what he was talking about. Kim explained that relying too much on the right hand while holding a sword puts extra pressure on the shoulder. Although her current posture might allow for faster attacks, it would quickly wear out her shoulder. To reduce the strain, she needed to use her left hand for support. He emphasized that the key was to balance the pressure between both hands. Minju made an odd face and responded with a half-hearted agreement. Watching her reaction, Kim assumed she was probably thinking that he, just a cleaner, was babbling nonsense. As he entered the dungeon, Kim muttered to himself that it wasn't his business anyway. He brushed it off, suggesting she go get checked if she wanted. Minju, left behind, wondered aloud what that was all about. The next morning, the scene shifted to a hospital room. A doctor informed Minju that she had been lucky. There was inflammation in her right shoulder. While not serious yet, if left untreated, it could have led to a major injury. The doctor prescribed her some medication and warned her to improve her posture. Confused, Minju asked what he meant. The doctor explained that her overall balance seemed off and advised her to strengthen her left grip. Hearing this, Minju was startled. She realized the cleaner from before had said the exact same thing. By evening, the scene shifted again. Kim was exhausted from the day's work. Park addressed the team, commending everyone for a job well done. Sang-hyuk approached Kim and pointed out that he wasn't handling things properly. Kim asked what he meant. Sang-hyun teased him, saying he shouldn't keep his ex waiting. Just then, Kim noticed Minju standing nearby. He was taken aback, wondering what she was doing there. Seeing Minju, Sang-hyuk leaned toward Park and quietly mentioned that she was Kim's ex. Park chuckled and suggested they give the two some space. Wrapping up the day, he bid everyone goodbye. Sang-hyuk added that it must feel nice to have someone waiting like that. As everyone left, Kim turned to Minju, asking what she wanted. He was clearly exhausted and mentioned needing to catch the last bus home. Without a word, Minju drew her sword and placed it on Kim's shoulder. She asked how he knew and questioned who he really was. Kim, surprised and annoyed, thought about how she dared to place a sword against his neck. Minju demanded an answer, wondering why he had suddenly gone silent. Kim asked what exactly she expected him to answer. She pointed to her shoulder, telling him not to pretend like he didn't know. Kim figured she must have gotten it checked and casually claimed it was just a wild guess. He explained that he only wanted to prank a hunter using things he read online. Minju didn't buy it. She argued that her sword skills were confidential and never made public. Somehow Kim had known her posture and even which muscles she relied on. Kim regretted getting involved. He acknowledged that Minju had exceptional swordsmanship, and it wasn't the kind of information a dungeon cleaner should have access to. If the association found out, they might suspect him of being a spy. To cover himself, Kim explained that he had noticed the sword marks on the monster carcass. Some marks were ordinary, but a few stood out. The deep vertical slashes supported by the right arm were clear, but the follow-up cuts were much shallower. That pattern made it obvious her left-hand grip was weak. He pointed out that Vega, the boss monster, was known for its nimble movements. It wasn't especially dangerous, but its speed made it tricky. A common strategy was to counterattack its fast movements. However, he found no signs of such counterattacks on the body. For someone of Minju's skill, not using that strategy meant one thing. She couldn't keep up with Vega's speed. Minju was stunned by how accurate his observations were. She admitted she had felt momentary pressure on her shoulder. Kim responded that she probably didn't pay much attention to it earlier, but in the middle of a fight the symptoms would have been more obvious, especially for a swordsman. Though not a swordsman himself, Kim thought about how he could give such advice so confidently. It was simple. He had once been the first all-class hunter in history. Suddenly, Minju's expression lit up with excitement. She claimed she knew it. He must be a freelance hunter. The suggestion caught Kim off guard. He asked what she was talking about. Minju went on, explaining that she had heard of A-rank freelance hunters in the city. Hidden masters with elite skills who only appeared in advanced dungeon raids. Or maybe, she guessed, he was a high-ranked hunter from the civilian guild. Kim denied it. He insisted he wasn't a hunter. Minju, still curious, asked what he was then. Kim pointed out that it should be obvious. He was just a cleaner. That should answer everything. He turned to leave, thinking it was clear what she wanted. She had probably hoped to benefit if he turned out to be a powerful hunter. But right now, he was nothing more than a dungeon cleaner. There was no reason for her to get involved with someone like him. Just then, Minju thanked him. Kim paused, surprised. He wondered if she had really just thanked him. Minju then spoke again, politely adding a final comment. The next day, inside the strategy and operations team building, the head of the team, Soo-young Lee, questioned Minju about her sudden request for a vacation. Minju calmly replied that the support team also believed she needed some rest. Soo-young asked if it was because of her previous checkup results. Minju confirmed it. Soo-young expressed disbelief, saying that taking a vacation for shoulder pain would have been unthinkable during his time. Minju added that it could also be an opportunity for personal growth. Soo-young scoffed at the idea, claiming it sounded more like a vacation with her boyfriend. Minju denied it, insisting it wasn't like that. Curious, Soo-young asked what it was about. Minju explained that she wanted to improve her swordsmanship. When asked where she planned to take classes, she said it would be through a personal tutor. Soo-young was shocked and asked if she had found herself a martial arts master or if it was her boyfriend again. Minju clarified that the tutor was a cleaner, someone from the dungeon cleaning team. Soo-young exploded in disbelief. He couldn't understand how an actual hunter like her could even think of learning swordsmanship from a cleaner. He said he'd rather see her take kendo classes. Minju insisted she would handle it on her own. Soo-young pressed further, asking if it was the cleaner who had told her to get her shoulder checked. Minju was startled and wondered how he knew. She suspected the support team might have said something. As she recalled the nurse, she silently cursed her. Soo-young angrily claimed the cleaner was overstepping. He couldn't comprehend what a hunter could possibly learn from a cleaner. Minju responded that nothing was decided yet. She had asked him before, but he had rejected her. Soo-young was frustrated, questioning what there was to learn from someone with nothing to teach. Minju stood firm. She said she would ask again, and keep asking until he accepted. Soo-young gave up, telling her to figure it out on her own. He reminded her that a large-scale conquest was scheduled in a few weeks, so she needed to be back by then. Minju thanked him, and as instructed, left the office. After she was gone, Soo-young muttered to himself in frustration. He couldn't believe what the world had come to. A hunter learning from a cleaner? The idea was ridiculous. He worried about how other teams might perceive this. If the head of Team 2 heard about the clearing team being involved, the consequences could be severe. Immediately, Soo-young made a call, asking if the general manager was available. When the person on the other end asked about the purpose of the call, he said he needed to speak to the general manager directly. There was something important he needed to share. Several days later, inside a dungeon, Kim was working alongside his team, humming a tune as he went about his tasks. He recalled how, a few days ago, he had unlocked a new skill. According to the system, the skill was granted due to increased interest from the association in the dungeon cleaning team. The skill acquired was called One Counter. Kim reflected that he hadn't done anything special, so he didn't understand why the skill had been unlocked. Still, he figured the outcome mattered more than the reason. Just then, Park approached him. Kim asked what was going on. Park hesitated, saying he didn't want to interfere in Kim's personal matters but was curious why Minju was there. Kim explained that he had brought her along. With Huijung still absent, he thought having an extra pair of hands would help. Park acknowledged the practicality but pointed out that Minju was a hunter. If the association found out she was doing cleaning work, it could lead to serious trouble. Kim silently admitted that he wasn't thrilled about bringing her either. The scene then shifted to a few days earlier, where Minju had knelt before Kim with her sword placed in front of her. She asked him to teach her swordsmanship. Kim was stunned. He couldn't believe a hunter would ask a cleaner for such training. He immediately realized it was going to be a difficult situation. To avoid giving a direct answer, Kim told her he would think about it, but only if she helped with cleaning duties. Deep down, he believed her pride as a hunter wouldn't allow her to accept such a condition. To his surprise, Minju lit up with excitement and asked if cleaning was all she needed to do. Back in the present, Kim found himself overwhelmed. Things weren't going the way he had expected. He had clearly underestimated her. He thought she was all pride and ego, but she willingly took on the chores. Now he wondered how he had ended up involved in all this. Minju, struggling to clean a stubborn stain, called out to Kim, addressing him as master. Kim immediately scolded her, reminding her not to call him that. He approached and explained that scrubbing wouldn't help. The blood was a mix of human and monster, and cleaning it required care. First, the human blood needed to be wiped with a mop. Then, the monster blood had to be melted with fire. Minju understood and nodded. Kim took out his dagger and pointed to another sticky spot, explaining it was monster flesh. Using chemicals would be wasteful, so a dagger was better for removal. He advised collecting the byproducts on one side and cleaning the blade after every use, as monster blood could corrode it. Demonstrating the process, he swiftly cleaned the area with skill and precision. Minju was left surprised by how thorough and efficient he was. Kim noticed her reaction and teased her, saying it didn't seem like a task fit for a hunter. But Minju admitted she had underestimated how complex cleaning could be. Just then, Park approached and joked that Kim had become a professional cleaner. Kim laughed it off but silently reflected on his own pride. Once an SSS-ranked hunter, he now felt oddly satisfied about being praised as a cleaner. Park turned to Minju, complimenting her for doing great work for a first-timer. Soyeon, standing off to the side, quietly observed the group's cheerful dynamic without saying anything. A short while later, Minju announced that she had finished her zone and asked if there was more to do. Soyeon suggested she join her in another area, asking Park for permission. Park warned that the next zone would have a lot of carcasses to clean, questioning if they could handle it alone. Soyeon replied with enthusiasm, saying it was rare to work with a hunter. Minju agreed, and the two headed off together. As they left, Sang-hyuk turned to Kim and said he was betting on the hunter. Kim agreed with a smirk. On the way to the new zone, Soyeon found herself unsure of what to say. She had brought Minju along, but now felt awkward. Still, she couldn't help herself. Minju noticed Soyeon looked tired and asked if she was all right. Soyeon insisted she was fine, though Minju pointed out that it didn't seem like it. Soyeon admitted with a smile that she hadn't gotten much sleep in days. Minju asked if something had happened, then expressed her curiosity about Soyeon's story, since it was her first time talking to a hunter so openly. Soyeon said there wasn't much to tell, and mentioned that she simply followed her father's footsteps into hunting. Minju was surprised to hear her father was also a hunter and asked if they worked together. Soyeon explained that he had been fired due to a shoulder injury. His superior accused him of faking it, and his partners distanced themselves, not wanting to deal with the trouble. He endured it all, but his health only got worse. Soyeon was shocked and questioned how anyone could treat a partner that way. But Minju corrected her. There were no real partners in the association, only superiors and juniors. Her father had been a B-rank hunter until he was fired. No one cared about a constant B-ranker. To the association, he was disposable. That was the reality. Power and rank ruled everything. The strong were obeyed, and the weak were used. If they treated hunters like that, she didn't even want to imagine how they treated cleaners. But she stopped herself mid-thought. Silence fell between them for a while. Then Minju suddenly said that Soyeon had feelings for Kim. Soyeon blushed and asked if it was that obvious. Minju smiled and confirmed it was. Soyeon then opened up, admitting that Kim was good at what he did and responsible. He had slacked off the first day and arrived late on the second, so she hadn't expected much from him. But over time, he started working harder than anyone else. He had deep knowledge of dungeons and monsters, often knowing more than the control team's materials. Some of the information he shared wasn't even documented, and with that, a new layer of understanding settled between the two women, bridging the gap between hunter and cleaner. As Minju observed Kim, her thoughts echoed with certainty. This man wasn't just an ordinary cleaner. He had identified her physical condition by examining knife wounds on a subdued monster carcass. With knowledge of dungeons and monsters exceeding even the control teams, he was the true master she needed to become stronger. Minju then reassured Soyeon that she had no romantic feelings for Kim. Soyeon raised an eyebrow, questioning why Minju came to see him every day. Minju explained that the association looked down on the weak and submitted to the strong, which infuriated her. That anger had driven her to seek change. To achieve strength, she needed the master's guidance. Soyeon, slightly amused, asked if that meant Minju wasn't Kim's ex after all. Minju responded with confusion. Before the conversation could go further, they returned to their teammates. Seeing Minju and Soyeon chatting so comfortably, Kim wondered when the two had become so close. Park gathered everyone and gave them a warning. The monster they were dealing with today was venomous. While he trusted the team's capability, he urged them to be extremely cautious and avoid direct contact at all costs. Park noticed something off about Soyeon and asked her if she was all right. Soyeon replied that the suit felt uncomfortable and the respirator was making it hard to breathe. Still, she brushed it off as a minor issue. Sang-hyuk, hearing that, brought up the condition of their gear. He questioned whether Park had tried to get a better budget from the association, pointing out that better equipment meant better safety. Park, clearly frustrated, said he had tried, but the association claimed there were no funds. Sang-hyuk wasn't surprised, complaining about the heavy workload and poor compensation. Despite the complaints, Park decided it was time to get started. He opened the gate, reminding everyone again not to touch the monster directly and to handle their equipment with care. The team entered the dungeon. As they stepped inside, Kim analyzed the monster silently. It was a boss type known as Maximum Slime. Though it appeared to be an ordinary slime, it carried deadly poison and a foul stench. Prolonged exposure would lead to intoxication, and with only a 5-minute survival window inside the dungeon, extra caution was crucial today. Park checked in with Kim and Sang-hyuk, asking if everything was all right. Both replied in unison that they were ready. Then Park turned to Soyeon to ask the same. But she didn't respond. Concerned, Park reached out to check on her. Suddenly, Soyeon collapsed, falling to the ground without warning. Park rushed to Soyeon, lifting her limp body, urging her to get up. Sang-hyuk quickly pointed out that her face had turned pale. Her respirator seemed to be malfunctioning, and her protective suit was torn. Park immediately ordered the team to evacuate her and contact the support team. Kim blamed himself silently. He should have warned her earlier. But now, it was too late. The support team would never arrive in time to administer the antidote. Once infected by Maximum Slime's toxin, only excruciating pain and inevitable death followed. Realizing the urgency, Kim turned to Minju and told her to draw her sword. Minju was taken aback and asked what he was planning. Both Park and Sang-hyuk shouted at Kim, confused by his actions. Kim insisted there was no time to waste. All they needed was a small cut. Minju, hesitant and unwilling, said she couldn't hurt Soyeon, hoping for another way. Kim clarified. He meant himself, not Soyeon. Park pleaded with him, emphasizing Soyeon's critical state. But Kim stayed firm, urging Minju to hurry. Reluctantly, Minju agreed, still unsure of his intentions. She summoned her sword and began activating her skill. Before Kim could stop her, she slashed across his abdomen. Kim winced in pain, thinking how she never listens when it matters. Blood spilled onto the ground as he struggled to remain focused. The pain was intense, but he pushed through. Kim declared he would take Soyeon to the support team himself. Park was shocked. With Kim injured and the nearest team 30 minutes away, it sounded impossible. But without waiting, Kim activated his hyperboost skill, grabbed Soyeon, and launched himself forward. With only 3 minutes left, he raced against time. Moments later, the scene shifted to a hospital. Park, overwhelmed with emotion, thanked the doctor with tears in his eyes. The doctor confirmed it had been a close call. Had she arrived a moment later, she wouldn't have survived. Thankfully, she would recover in a few days. Park once again expressed his gratitude. Meanwhile, the doctor turned to Kim and reminded him to visit the discharging office to pay for his stitches. Kim, visibly annoyed, silently fumed about being charged for just a couple of sutures. Sometime later, Soyeon regained consciousness. Park scolded her, saying everyone had been worried sick. She should have informed them if she wasn't feeling well. Sang-hyuk, furious, vented his anger. It was all because of their faulty worn-out gear. Park tried to calm him, reminding him to watch his language in public. But Sang-hyuk was livid. He shouted in frustration about being expected to work in gear that failed to protect them. While hunters received seasonal gear upgrades, they were left with nothing. He quickly added that he wasn't blaming the hunters specifically. Soyeon, trying to ease the tension, said it was fine. Park advised her to rest and assured her he'd try to get the medical bills cleared as an occupational accident. Soyeon asked if the claim would be approved. Park responded with confidence. It was clearly a work-related injury, so she had nothing to worry about. As the conversation in the hospital settled down, Kim quietly turned to leave. Soyeon called out, asking where he was going. Without looking back, Kim simply replied that he was going for a walk. While walking away, Kim reflected on the recent events. Soyeon's injury, caused by outdated equipment, had unexpectedly opened up a valuable opportunity. With the incident fresh and the team's frustration evident, this was the perfect time to push for budget expansion. The association wouldn't risk damaging its reputation by denying it. If everything went according to plan, he would unlock 2 more skills and soon say goodbye to the cleaning team. Back inside, Soyeon expressed concern to Park, noting that Kim didn't seem to be in a good mood. Park agreed, guessing he was furious. Soyeon wondered if it was because she had caused too much trouble. But Park reassured her that wasn't the reason. She was injured, and Kim, despite his seemingly short temper, cared deeply for his partners. Park recognized someone loyal when he saw one. Soyeon reflected on Kim's selfless act. He had put his own body on the line to protect his teammate. She realized he was a natural leader. Sang-hyuk then raised a suspicion. He asked if anyone else found Kim a little fishy. Soyeon, confused, asked why. Sang-hyuk reminded her that Kim had saved her life using a skill. Shocked, Soyeon hadn't realized that before. Sang-hyuk emphasized how absurd it was for someone from the cleaning team to use a skill. Even though he hadn't been on the job long, this seemed highly unusual. Soyeon, now stunned, whispered that she hadn't even thanked Kim yet. Meanwhile, Park turned to Minju and asked her opinion about Kim. Minju admitted that Kim seemed like a good person, but not her type. Park clarified. He meant Kim as a hunter. Minju looked a bit embarrassed at the question. Park explained that Kim was far too skilled to be working as a cleaner. His knowledge of dungeon tactics and monsters exceeded that of most hunters. Minju then asked if Park was suggesting a transfer to the strategy and operations team. Park admitted it was a bold idea, but one that might be in Kim's best interest. Minju agreed. Kim was clearly more capable than many hunters in terms of both skill and experience. However, the issue remained. He was part of the cleaning team. Hearing this, Sang-hyuk flared up in anger. He accused Minju of looking down on cleaners. But Minju quickly corrected him. It wasn't an insult. In fact, it was the opposite. As a B-class hunter, she couldn't even gauge Kim's full capabilities. That could only mean one thing. Kim was fully aware of his own strength, yet he deliberately chose the cleaning team over a higher-ranking department. This left everyone stunned. Park slowly realized the truth. Kim was staying on the cleaning team because he wanted to. Minju confirmed it. It was the only explanation that made sense. Park then wondered why Kim would choose to do such dirty work. Minju offered her guess. Kim was highly skilled but had no interest in climbing the corporate ladder. He valued camaraderie over hierarchy. Everyone was caught off guard by this revelation. Park decided to drop the matter entirely out of respect. Sang-hyuk, overwhelmed, muttered that he never realized Kim cared that much about them. Then a sudden thought hit him. If Kim cared so much about his partners, was it possible he had gone to the association himself to take Soyeon's matter into his own hands? Minju was taken aback by the idea, but the more she thought about it, the more it made sense. Kim was the type to go above and beyond. At that very moment, the scene shifted to the Seoul headquarters. Kim stood confidently inside the building, facing the head of the Korea Association of Supernatural Ability Management, Min Cheol-soo. The head asked who he was. Without hesitation, Kim replied that he was a cleaner. At the Seoul headquarters, Kim meets Min Cheol-soo, the head of the Korea Association of Supernatural Ability Management. Min Cheol expresses surprise that Kim is requesting a budget raise for the cleaning team. Kim firmly confirms this. The narration then reveals that Min Cheol-soo, the topmost figure at Seoul headquarters, took his post exactly a year ago. Since then, his followers had been strategically placed in important positions across the association, establishing a deeper influence than anyone had anticipated. Min Cheol brushes off the request, stating that budget matters fall under the management team's jurisdiction. But Kim challenges that logic, questioning what kind of hunter focuses on weaker monsters during a conquest when subjugating the boss could end it more effectively. Min Cheol then asks if Kim is a hunter, to which Kim calmly replies that he's just a cleaner. Min Cheol becomes visibly annoyed. A mere staff member, someone who isn't even a team leader, was standing before the general manager demanding a budget raise. Kim acknowledges that directly. Min Cheol scoffs, claiming youngsters wouldn't understand such matters and questions why a cleaning team with minimal expenses would need more funding. Kim counters, explaining that the problem lies exactly there. The budget is even less than the small amount they require. Finding the situation amusing, Min Cheol mocks Kim's courage, attributing it to ignorance. But Kim doesn't waver. He explains that a recent accident occurred due to outdated equipment. The team had no choice but to proceed with the old gear. As a result, a protective suit tore, the respirator malfunctioned, and a team member was exposed to monster toxins. Surprised, Min Cheol notes he never received a report about such an incident. Kim clarifies that it had just happened. Meanwhile, Min Cheol silently wonders what gave this kid the confidence to speak so boldly. Kim admits that while he understands the reluctance to spend on the cleaning team, accidents like this shouldn't happen at all. But Min Cheol coldly says that headquarters simply doesn't have the funds. Kim echoes his words in disbelief. Min Cheol adds that Kim likely knows nothing about how the association operates, especially since he seems like a newcomer. Smiling, Kim disagrees. He points out that Min Cheol was the one who pulled the strings on this year's budget. He reveals that the budget assigned to the Superpower Management Department likely totals millions of dollars, and that 70% of it had gone to the strategy and operation team. Min Cheol, now suspicious, demands to know how Kim knows all this. Kim continues, stating that the team won't be able to use up all that budget this year. Most of it would end up funding year-end celebratory conquests and union raids. He suggests that it would be better to divert some of those funds to the teams that truly need it. When Min Cheol demands to know who Kim really is, Kim simply repeats that he's a cleaner. Then he adds a reminder. Min Cheol had only been in office for 2 months. He should be cautious if he wants to keep that hard-earned seat. The cleaning team already had a reputation for being mistreated. If it were to come out that a team member had been injured due to lack of proper equipment, the backlash could be severe. Min Cheol accuses Kim of blackmail, but Kim calmly denies it. He insists he's only offering a suggestion. Curious, Min Cheol asks how much of a raise Kim is seeking. Kim replies that the amount doesn't matter. It's up to him. In his thoughts, Kim reflects that the system only required a budget increase to unlock the next skill. The actual amount was irrelevant, as long as the condition was met. As Kim prepares to leave, he states that the conversation seems to be over. But before he exits, Min Cheol suddenly asks if he knows Hunter Minju. Kim, surprised, asks why he's bringing her up. Min Cheol smirks, saying he'll respond about the budget expansion after a review, and dismisses Kim. As Kim walks away, he wonders why Min Cheol mentioned Minju out of the blue. The scene then transitions to Min Cheol making a call to Soo-young. He reports that a cleaner had just stopped by to speak with him. Min Cheol suspects this person might be the same kid Soo-young once mentioned, the one Minju Kim was learning swordsmanship from. On the call, Soo-young is stunned. A cleaner came to meet the general manager directly? Min Cheol, however, is convinced this person isn't really a cleaner. He confesses that the visitor had access to insider information and might be someone from within the association itself. Though the excuse was a budget proposal for the cleaning team, Min Cheol believes that wasn't the real objective. Soo-young finds this news promising. He had been planning to teach the cleaning team a lesson anyway. Now, with this information, He remarks that it's time to show them who's really in charge. The next day, the atmosphere among the team was tense. Park looked at a newly posted notice with disbelief, questioning the absurdity of the disciplinary action being taken. Sang-hyuk, equally furious, couldn't believe what he was reading. Instead of compensation, they were met with a disciplinary notice, which made no sense to him. He turned to Minju for answers, expressing how unfair and unreasonable the situation was. Minju, just as shocked, admitted she was astonished too. Park read the notice aloud. The reason for the disciplinary action against Soyeon Moon was cited as a violation of the prohibition on side jobs. The accident, they claimed, was a result of accumulated fatigue caused by her secondary work. Sang-hyuk exploded in anger, frustrated by the reality that they weren't even paid enough for the work they did. Park continued reading. Soyeon's accident was being dismissed as personal negligence, not an occupational hazard. Compensation was denied, and the authorities claimed there was no evidence that outdated equipment had caused the incident. Hearing all of this, Kim couldn't help but think to himself, Min Cheol-soo had truly chosen this path. Soyeon, trying to remain composed, told Kim not to worry. She said she was fine and that it was just a written warning. She had never expected the claim to be approved anyway, but Kim's mind was somewhere else. He wasn't worried about the warning itself. It was the skills tied to this situation that concerned him. Sang-hyuk then approached Kim, expressing genuine respect. He had heard about how Kim confronted the general manager and praised him for his courage, calling him a real badass. Park echoed the sentiment, saying they had all heard what happened. Even if the results were unfortunate, Kim's efforts wouldn't go unnoticed. Kim, however, was baffled. He wondered how they all ended up interpreting things this way. Soon after, Park and the rest of the cleaning team began heading into the dungeon for another shift. Park rallied the group, reminding them not to let Kim's efforts go to waste. He encouraged them to give their best and also advised Soyeon to go easy on herself. Soyeon responded cheerfully, assuring everyone that she was doing fine. As Kim watched them leave, he grew more puzzled. The more he thought about it, the less it made sense. He hadn't asked for much, just a small budget raise. He didn't press charges. So why were the authorities suddenly digging into side jobs and issuing disciplinary actions? Was there another reason behind their extreme reaction? Minju, standing nearby, seemed troubled. She wondered aloud if this could be her fault. Kim asked her what she meant. Minju explained that when she had requested some time off, she mentioned the cleaning team to her boss. She admitted that her boss hadn't looked too happy about it at the time. Now, she was starting to believe that might be the reason behind all this. Curious, Kim asked for her boss's name. Minju told him it was Soo-young Lee from Strategy and Operation Team 1. She asked if Kim knew him. Kim immediately recognized the name. Soo-young Lee was a known associate of Min Cheol-soo. He was someone who had risen to a leadership role despite lacking capability, notorious for his frequent power trips. With a knowing smile, Kim muttered that he had expected it. Without wasting time, he informed Park that he was taking the day off. The scene then shifted to Samsung Station in Seocho-gu, Seoul. Suddenly, a dungeon emerged in the middle of the city. Amid the chaos, Kim appeared at the scene, a smirk on his face. He looked ahead confidently, thinking to himself that it was finally time to show off his skills. As the dungeon unfolded near Samsung Station, Kim suddenly found himself surrounded by a swarm of monsters. Without hesitation, he activated one of his skills. The system notified him of a significant speed boost during combat. Utilizing his Hyper Boost skill, Kim swiftly eliminated every monster in sight, clearing them all in a single strike. Reflecting on his actions, Kim acknowledged that what he was doing was an uncivil subjugation. Freelance hunters often attempted such secret dungeon takeovers without the association's approval, aiming only for monetary gain. It had been so long since his last attempt that he found it difficult to control his own strength. Despite the high risks, tight time constraints, and limited intel, none of it mattered to him. There were only 15 minutes left before the strategy and operation team would arrive. He aimed to wrap everything up within 10. As a top-class hunter, that would have been easy, back when he had all the necessary skills. But now, lacking any defense abilities, even a single hit could prove fatal. The only reason he was able to move this quickly was because he had already been through this dungeon once before. With that, Kim hurled his weapon straight at the boss monster. At the same time, he activated his acquired skill, which amplified damage by 3,000% when hitting weak spots. A powerful blast followed, and the boss was obliterated instantly. Sitting down afterward, Kim quietly noted the day's achievements: the metallic boar, the junior succubus, the ghost, and the dimensional monster. That made 4 dungeons subdued in just one day. He thought about how a single hunter from the strategy and operation team usually managed to handle 3 or 4 dungeons per week. His own feat wasn't bad in comparison. Though the profits wouldn't be impressive since these were all low-level dungeons, it was still a solid outcome. Soon, vehicles from the association filled the area. Kim realized that he had likely triggered an emergency alert at headquarters. In their eyes, an unknown hunter had just cleared a dungeon without permission. If caught, he could be fired at the very least, or worse, held financially responsible for any damage. Still, he was confident they wouldn't suspect a member of the cleaning team. Kim stood up, knowing the hunters would be arriving any moment. It was time to leave. He didn't want to miss the look of awe on their faces. As the scene shifted, Kim returned from his 2-day leave. But it wasn't just others who were in awe. He was too. Arriving at the dungeon site, he was surprised to see Soo-young Lee present. The sight left him wondering if Soo-young had somehow caught on. Soo-young, maintaining a friendly front, spoke to Park about the importance of camaraderie among different teams. Kim, unimpressed, dismissed the words in his mind. He knew Soo-young had never even acknowledged the cleaning team before. With a smile, Soo-young turned toward Kim and claimed to be just a bystander, instructing them to carry on as usual. But Kim remained suspicious. For the chief of strategy and operation to show up at such a moment could only mean one thing. Soo-young likely suspected him of intercepting the dungeon. Park tried to resume normal operations, offering to bring the respirator and hazmat suit for Soo-young. However, Soo-young declined, stating he would simply observe from a distance. Once inside the dungeon, Park observed the situation and muttered that the task ahead would take a while. He turned to Sang-hyuk to check the remaining time. Sang-hyuk informed him that they had 1 hour left and could make it if they hurried. Kim asked Minju if she had any chemicals remaining. Minju confirmed she had a little left and asked about the required consistency. Kim instructed her to make it 60%, stating he needed it strong since the flesh had completely hardened. He also asked her to bring him another mop. Meanwhile, Park questioned Soyeon about the gas levels. Soyeon responded that it was at 150 micrograms per square meter and decomposing quickly. Kim then requested Sang-hyuk's help with the dismantling once he was done. But Sang-hyuk declined, explaining that there was too much blood down the passage and he needed to wipe it down again. Standing off to the side, Soo-young silently observed the team. He noted how everyone appeared unusually busy just because of his presence. He decided it was the perfect moment to throw some bait. Turning to Minju, Soo-young casually brought up the topic of dungeon interceptions that had occurred over the past 2 days. Kim, overhearing this, grew tense. Minju still thought he was currently just a hunter. But if she found out about the interception during his leave, he feared the entire team might turn on him. Kim suspected that Soo-young was trying to feel him out. Minju responded to the comment, noting how the hunters must be in chaos. Soo-young added that while a thorough investigation was underway, finding the culprit was proving difficult. He mentioned a substantial reward was being offered for whoever brought in the dungeon interceptor. Surprised, Minju asked about the reward. Soo-young explained further. Additional points would be given in the rank evaluation for hunters, and there might even be a departmental transfer for teams who caught the culprit. That meant even the cleaning team could be reassigned if they succeeded. He made it clear that the offer applied to everyone, not just Minju, and instructed them to report any suspicious individuals, specifically those who had recently taken 2 days off. Hearing this, Kim's anxiety spiked. The mention of departmental movement made the situation urgent. He realized he had underestimated Soo-young's cleverness, despite assuming his position was gained through internal connections. Breaking the tension, Park approached Kim and asked about his injury from the previous day. He reminded him to be more careful when dismantling monsters. Soyeon chimed in, pointing out how lucky Kim was to have been injured yesterday instead of today, when Mr. Lee was present. Sang-hyuk added that he saw it coming, having noticed Kim humming through his work. Park remarked that Kim had gotten too comfortable from all the compliments lately. Park then turned to Soo-young, joking about how unfortunate it was that no suspicious individual was found among their team. Soo-young, however, wasn't convinced. Park continued, pretending to lament that if the interceptor had been on their team, they could have reported him and earned a promotion. Sang-hyuk joined in, vowing that if they found anyone fishy, they'd bring him straight to Soo-young. He declared himself a man of no loyalty, but one who always kept his word. Witnessing all this banter and performance, Soo-young silently questioned whether the cleaning team had lost their minds from all the cleaning. The next day, the scene shifted. Soo-young, now fully convinced, made a phone call to Min-cheol. He reported that he had found the culprit, confidently claiming that the cleaner was behind the recent dungeon interceptions. He noted that there had been no further incidents since the cleaner returned to work. Min-cheol, however, responded differently. He suggested they simply let the cleaning team be. Startled, Soo-young questioned the decision. They had clear evidence and only needed to take disciplinary action. He asked whether Min-cheol truly intended to let the culprit off the hook. Min-cheol calmly responded that they had stirred up a hornet's nest. That cleaner, he revealed, was no ordinary employee. Then Min-cheol revealed Kim's true identity, leaving Soo-young completely stunned. Inside a busy bank, a child pointed at Kim and commented to his mother that the man was bleeding. The mother, alarmed, hushed her child, warning that the scary-looking man might hear him. Kim, meanwhile, was lost in thought, reminding himself of the reason he intercepted the dungeon. If he couldn't secure a budget, he would have to create one himself. Elsewhere, Soo-young was on a call with Min-cheol, questioning his decision. He insisted they had clear evidence linking Kim to the interception. Min-cheol informed him that someone had just made an anonymous donation to the cleaning team. It wasn't a large sum, but matched the estimated profit from the recent dungeon incident. That, Soo-young believed, confirmed their suspicions and clearly identified the culprit. But Min-cheol wasn't convinced. He pointed out how unusual it was for a cleaner to intercept a dungeon. With such skills, anyone else would have left the cleaning team for better opportunities. Soo-young didn't understand the logic, but Min-cheol continued. Not only had Kim proposed a budget raise directly, but he also knew intricate details about the association. details no regular cleaner should be aware of. To Mincheol, it was obvious Kim didn't belong in the cleaning team. He then revealed his theory. Kim had to be an insider, someone high up in the association's hierarchy, possibly even someone acting under direct orders from the chairman himself. So-young was stunned. The idea that the chairman could be involved explained a lot, especially why the team had been protecting Kim all along. He realized he had overlooked something crucial. Mincheol warned him further, suggesting this might be a subtle message to fall in line before things escalated. Without Mincheol's support, So-young had no protection left. They had clearly messed with the wrong person. Back at the cleaning site, Kim was deep in thought, suspecting that So-young had chosen to back off for now. His only concern was when the promised funds would finally arrive. That's when the team noticed a stack of boxes in front of them. They were surprised, wondering what it could be. Sang-hyuk and So-yeon opened the boxes to find brand new hazmat suits and respirators. Park observed that they were also packed with respirator parts and gloves, possibly sponsored by the headquarters. Kim assumed the anonymous donation had finally been put to use. Just then, Park received an official notice. Kim figured it would state how the donation came from an anonymous source, but the amount seemed far too generous for the value of 20 million won. Park, reading the document, was shocked to discover the amount was actually 200 million won. Kim, equally stunned, took the notice from Park and read it himself, confirming it was 10 times what he had donated. Sang-hyuk continued reading the notice aloud. After reviewing the recent accident, the association had concluded that outdated equipment, caused by lack of funding, was the primary reason behind the mishap. As a result, the Seoul headquarters had decided to slightly increase the team's budget. So-yeon was surprised to hear about the budget raise. Sang-hyuk read on. The association also offered its deepest sympathy to So-yeon for her injuries and would provide compensation. The compensation amount totaled 100 million won. Overwhelmed with emotion, tears welled up in So-yeon's eyes. She turned to Kim, asking if he was behind it. Kim denied it. Sang-hyuk pressed him again, but Kim repeated it wasn't him. Park, still in disbelief, mentioned that this was the first time he'd seen the association change so drastically. Kim found it odd as well. The association was never the type to reverse its decisions or provide generous funding. Park pointed to the written notice, saying the decision had been revised and that was all they needed to know. It didn't matter who did what anymore. So-yeon agreed, accepting the explanation. Park sighed, noting it would take forever to move all the equipment to their office. He joked that whoever delivered it should have carried it in for them. Kim, surprised, asked if they even had an office. Park confirmed they did, though it hadn't been of much use before. Minju asked where the office was and offered to carry the boxes with Kim while the others went home. Kim resisted, saying he never agreed to help. But Park decided they would all do it together. Minju insisted it would be fine with just the two of them and looked to Kim for agreement. Kim responded with sarcasm, knowing full well Minju wouldn't take no for an answer. Soon after, while Kim was working, the system notified him that a new requirement had been unlocked, an expansion of the cleaning team's budget. Alongside that, he gained a new ability, the Hellfire skill. Kim was thrilled to see another skill added to his arsenal, thinking that he would be leaving the cleaning team very soon. Later, Minju approached Kim and brought up the recent dungeon interceptions from the past 2 days. Kim responded indifferently, implying he didn't care what she might do with that information. But Minju reassured him, saying she wouldn't report him just for a few extra points. She pressed on, pointing out that he had used the profits from those interceptions to fund the team's compensation and equipment. Kim was surprised she knew. Minju guessed that the rest of the team probably knew too, but they were deliberately ignoring it to avoid putting him in danger. Kim was shocked that everyone knew, even though he thought he had handled the matter carefully. Minju reminded him of the old saying, "You can't hide an awl in a bag," meaning true talent always stands out. She warned that while they let him off this time, they would now be keeping a close watch on him. In her view, his place in the cleaning team would no longer be secure, but Kim took this as a good sign. He thought maybe she was trying to push him higher up by reporting to the higher-ups. For a moment, he appreciated tagging Minju along with the cleaning team. He believed he was finally close to escaping the nightmare of this lowly post. However, Minju smiled and said something unexpected. She believed that Kim actually wanted to stay in the cleaning team. She offered to help him remain there for as long as he wished. While she admitted she couldn't do much now, she promised that once she reached a higher rank, she'd support him properly. Kim was instantly irritated and wondered if she was messing with him. Just when everything seemed to be going smoothly after the interception incident, a new problem emerged. As the team entered a dungeon for their next assignment, they found it completely trashed. The walls were covered in profanity written in monster blood, and monster corpses were scattered intentionally. So-yeon was shocked, feeling that things had gone too far. Sang-hyuk, visibly angry, urged Kim to join him in confronting those responsible, specifically, the Akudant hunters. Kim wasn't interested. He reminded Sang-hyuk that if those responsible didn't admit anything, there was no point in confronting them. He believed it was better to ignore them and let things settle on their own. Despite his calm demeanor, Kim knew the hunters from the operation team were the ones behind it. As much as he wanted to confront them directly, he couldn't afford to stir up trouble. He needed to stay quiet and continue unlocking his skills. He believed they wouldn't keep this up forever, but he was wrong. The harassment continued for 4 straight days. Sang-hyuk, unable to take it any longer, angrily told Park he would confront the operation team himself. Park explained he had already tried that multiple times. He even attempted to meet the team leader, but the man was supposedly away on a business trip. The operation team was denying any involvement. Sang-hyuk suggested they should at least inform Hunter Minju. Kim immediately shut that idea down. When Sang-hyuk pushed back, Kim, now visibly angry, told him not to do anything because he was going in himself. He also told the team not to clean that dungeon. Kim was furious. He was amazed at the immaturity of the hunters who had kept this up for days. But what truly impressed him was their dedication to annoying him. They had succeeded in pushing him to his limit. With boiling anger, he activated his OCD skill. Later, Kim, now deeply frustrated, expressed his anger over the situation. He cursed the hunters for extending his working hours to 15 a day. Despite already working relentlessly, he now found himself missing the last ride home every single night because of them. That evening, Kim stormed into headquarters, burning with rage. A staff member spotted him and asked how he dared shove a hunter. But Kim wasn't thinking of stopping. In his mind, he had decided to end this once and for all. Tonight, Kim reflects on the chaos surrounding him, noting it as a direct result of the incident from 3 days earlier. Outside the dungeon, 2 men mock the cleaning team, commenting on the revolting stench that greets them. One of them even calls it the cleaning team's trademark. As they pass by, one shoves Sang-hyuk aside with arrogance, while the other mocks the cleaners for watching them. They blame the cleaning team for interfering with another division's budget and say they should have known their place. Just cleaners, nothing more. One of them even claims he'd rather take a part-time job than be a cleaner. Just then, Minju arrives and demands to know which division they belong to. The 2 men scoff, dismissing her as a kid and threatening her to back off. But Minju, unfazed, repeats her question sternly. One of them mocks her again, but the other quickly realizes who she is and tries to silence his partner. The first one asks why, and then comes the shocking truth. Minju is their superior. Immediately, both men bow and greet her respectfully. Minju acknowledges that they're part of her team and remarks she didn't realize it until now. One of them apologizes, but Minju points out that their apology is misdirected. They should be sorry for behaving less like decent human beings. She then approaches Soyeon and Sang-hyuk to check if they're all right, and both confirm that they are. Minju shares her frustration, stating that many of the new hunters act arrogantly just because of their rank, even though most barely qualify as E-class. She apologizes for what happened, but Soyeon reassures her that everything's fine. The 2 hunters, however, continue to glare at the cleaning team. Later, Park arrives and greets Minju, expecting to begin their usual duties, but Minju reveals that she's there to say farewell. She thanks him for his support and guidance. Park humbly says they should be the ones thanking her for her hard work. Kim observes quietly, noting that although it had only been a week since Minju started helping with the cleaning team, she had picked things up quickly. She was already handling a full cleaner's workload efficiently, but now her time with them had come to an end. Minju expresses her gratitude for meeting such great people, and as emotions rise, Soyeon begins to cry. She asks Minju to promise that she'll visit sometime. From a distance, Kim watches them, thinking how close they've grown in just a week, like real sisters. But Kim's thoughts reveal a different perspective. Everyone was sad to see Minju go, but not him, because he had asked her to leave. The scene shifts to the previous day, where Kim had told Minju she didn't need to report for cleaning duties anymore. He recalls how surprised she looked, but she quickly understood the true meaning behind his words. Not having to clean anymore was his way of accepting her favor. Afterward, he helped her plan conquest schedules based on his own knowledge and experience. If she followed his guidance, she could reach A rank within 6 months. Kim admits he's still far from rebuilding the career he had in his previous life. But his plan is clear, to train Minju into the greatest hunter and use her success as leverage in future negotiations with the association. In his past life, she had asked if she meant more to him than just a tool. In this life, the answer remains the same. She is still just disposable. Minju, with a faint smile, thanks Kim and tells him to call her if he ever needs help, even though she doubts he will. Kim responds with a simple acknowledgement. Kim then informs us that all of this happened the very next day after Minju left the cleaning team. Inside a building, the 2 arrogant hunters were seen chatting casually. One of them mocked the old cleaner who had come in the previous day, finding the entire encounter hilarious. The other chimed in, laughing about how the bald man had practically begged them to treat the cleaning team kindly. They took pride in asserting that cleaners should never interfere with a hunter team's budget, considering it a foolish move. But before their laughter could continue, Kim appeared and punched one of them straight in the face. Shocked, the second hunter demanded to know who Kim was. As Kim turned toward him to attack, the man activated his necromancer skill, warning Kim that he was messing with the wrong person. He launched an attack, but Kim dodged it effortlessly. Enraged, the hunter used another skill, Death Assault, threatening to show Kim the price of crossing a hunter. But Kim struck him hard again, furious that a hunter would dare use skills outside dungeon grounds. He criticized their childish behavior, questioning if they had ever received proper hunter training. Kim reminded them of the seriousness of their actions, emphasizing that they were attacking a civilian. The hunter tried to defend himself, arguing that Kim had assaulted a hunter and would face consequences. But Kim shut him down, calling him an E-rank weakling and warning him to stay quiet. The man, now scared, apologized. Kim scoffed at his cowardice, saying he didn't deserve to be called a hunter. Kim then delivered a clear message. From that day forward, the cleaning team would no longer clean up after their dungeon messes. Everything they had done so far, every cruel and irresponsible act, would be exposed across headlines and social media, ruining their careers. He offered them a choice: come and apologize or face public disgrace. The hunter, still defiant, claimed the association would protect them as it always sided with hunters. But Kim laughed at the idea. He reminded them that they were mere E-rankers and far too insignificant for the association to bother covering for. He warned them again: apologize or make things worse. When one of the hunters questioned if Kim was taking things too far, Kim responded with a threat, suggesting a stripped skill match inside a dungeon. The tension was high when suddenly, Soo-young entered, asking what the commotion was about. Kim was surprised to see him, knowing he was supposed to be on a business trip. This unexpected arrival made things complicated. Soo-young, however, greeted Kim politely and asked if there had been any issue with the budget. Kim was puzzled by his friendly tone. Kim explained the situation, stating that the hunters had staged a ridiculous act during their conquest, scattering monster corpses and smearing blood on dungeon walls. He had only come to check if there was a problem with the cleaning team. One of the hunters quickly interrupted, accusing Kim of randomly attacking them. But before the man could say more, Soo-young slapped him hard, furious that he had called Kim a bastard. He apologized to Kim on their behalf. Kim accepted it and requested that Soo-young keep an eye on them. As Kim prepared to leave, he added that he never wanted to see those two around again. Soo-young acknowledged the request, wishing Kim well as he left. Kim thought to himself that everything had wrapped up smoothly, except for one lingering question. What had caused such a drastic shift in Soo-young's attitude? Later, Kim and Minju sat together discussing the situation. Kim asked if she had any idea why Soo-young had changed. Minju, just back from her week-long vacation, said she didn't know yet. Still, she found the hunters' behavior pathetic, saying their actions reflected their low ranks. Kim acknowledged that at least they received a proper apology. He hoped those hunters had learned their lesson and would never repeat their mistake. But Minju revealed a final piece of information that caught Kim off guard. The two hunters had been fired. Kim began to wonder if his complaint had gone too far. Because of what he said that day, 2 hunters had been fired over a single complaint from someone considered just a cleaner. He couldn't shake the feeling that Soo-young's overly polite attitude had hidden something strange. Kim felt uneasy, sensing that something wasn't right. The next day at work, Kim and his team were stunned by an unexpected change. Outside the dungeon, hunters had gathered and were openly appreciating the cleaning team's efforts. Kim also acknowledged their presence, complimenting them for their work. From that point on, the hunters' behavior took a strange turn. After every dungeon conquest, they would stay back, offering respectful salutes to the cleaning team, or neatly gathering monster carcasses into one corner. They even went as far as cleaning the boss's room until it was spotless. This new attitude didn't go unnoticed. Soyeon remarked that it wasn't easy getting used to this sudden change. Park, with 10 years of cleaning experience, admitted he had never seen the strategy and operation team act this way before. Sang-hyuk joked that at this rate, their cleaning team might end up taking over that department. Park quickly pointed out that it was all thanks to Kim, who had done the real work. Sang-hyuk, trying to ease the mood, agreed and credited Kim fully. Soyeon, though grateful, admitted her concerns. She appreciated Kim's support, but worried he might suffer consequences alone. Kim was confused about her comment, unsure what she meant by siding with them. She clarified that even though the hunters were careful now, someone might eventually try to strike back. Kim remained confident that no one would retaliate unless they were truly bold, so there was no need to worry just yet. Soyeon agreed, emphasizing that he had done nothing wrong. Later, Sang-hyuk approached Kim, expressing confusion over everything that had happened. Kim had gone straight to the general manager, increased their budget, got hunters fired, and now even had Team 1 walking on eggshells. When Sang-hyuk hinted that Kim might secretly be someone powerful enough to scare the higher-ups, Kim brushed it off with a laugh and told him to get back to work. Inwardly, Kim scoffed at the idea. If he were truly a big shot, he wouldn't be stuck cleaning. Meanwhile, Soo-young appeared tired and drained. Dongbin Lim, head of strategy and operation Team 2, approached him with a mocking tone. He had heard rumors that Soo-young had been trying to cozy up to the cleaning team, and he found the idea laughable. He sarcastically commented on Soo-young's teamwork and suggested that sucking up to cleaners wasn't exactly a good look. In response, Soo-young sternly told Dongbin to shut his mouth if he didn't understand the situation. He questioned whether Dongbin even knew who the cleaner in question really was. Dongbin revealed that he had heard the rumors, that the cleaner was backed by the chairman himself. He then mocked the idea, claiming that connections never lasted long in the industry. According to Dongbin, real credibility came from rising through the ranks alone, not by relying on powerful allies. Growing impatient, Soo-young warned him to stop stirring trouble, but Dongbin continued, offering to fix the problem for him. He insisted on taking care of the cleaner from the association, who, in his opinion, didn't know his place. Dongbin said he'd handle it as Soo-young's superior. Soo-young asked about his plan. Dongbin claimed it was nothing major, just following proper protocol. In his view, the cleaner wouldn't survive a fatal mistake, no matter his connections. When Soo-young questioned whether the cleaning team had made any errors, Dongbin admitted that nothing had happened yet, but they would ensure something did. This made Soo-young uneasy. He could sense Dongbin had something dangerous planned. Dongbin laughed and pressed further. He questioned whether Soo-young truly intended to keep siding with the cleaners for the rest of his career. He reminded him of his rank as an elite and leader of Team 1 and warned that the situation was spiraling out of control. Soo-young pushed aside the comment and asked for clarity. Dongbin hinted that he wasn't asking for much in return, just cooperation. He brought up that Team 1 was scheduled for a large-scale conquest the following week, a multi-zone dungeon operation in the Yeongdongpo area. The mention of that dungeon visibly shocked Soo-young. The scene shifts to a detailed overview of the upcoming multi-zone dungeon, a unique dungeon that only opens its next area after the previous boss is defeated. While it usually qualifies as a standard green-rank dungeon, its complexity arises from the fact that no one can exit unless all bosses have been subdued. Because of this, the operation demands intense preparation, requiring an entire month for planning and another for execution. Amid this discussion, Dongbin expresses interest in taking over the operation. His request sparks a sharp reaction from Soo-young, who yells at him for being insane. But Dongbin calmly reveals that the general manager has already approved the handover and only asked him to discuss it with Soo-young. Soo-young reflects on Dongbin's tendency to steal credit by hijacking the achievements of others. Yet, with the cleaning team involved, he finds himself in a tough spot. He realizes he can't afford to directly harm them. Frustrated, he thinks that if Dongbin manages to remove the cleaning team, it would still count as a win for him. Eventually, he agrees to the deal, but warns Dongbin to keep him out of any fallout. Dongbin, pleased with the outcome, mentions a rising star on Soo-young's team, Minju, and requests her assistance. Soo-young is irritated at how Dongbin always seems to know such internal details, but reluctantly tells him to take whatever he needs. Meanwhile, Kim is seen sitting on a bus, deep in thought. He notes how things have shifted since he regressed into his current body. With each success, unlocking skills has become less demanding. He also considers the fact that the cleaning team hasn't had any new applicants for months, and takes it as a sign that they are stable for now. Soon, a system message appears for Kim, informing him about a locked skill that requires him to initiate a joint project with another department. Kim realizes he would have ignored such a condition earlier, but with how the operation team behaves now, this might actually be achievable. As he examines more locked skills, he sees one that seems attainable, increasing public interest in the cleaning team, unlike the improbable wage increase. Suddenly, Kim receives a call from Minju. When he answers, she informs him about an upcoming large-scale conquest scheduled for the next week and that she has been appointed the leader of the subjugation squad. Kim immediately thinks of the multi-zone dungeon and wonders if this conquest is related. He compliments her rising value, but Minju brings up the real concern. The cleaning team has been requested to participate in the conquest. Kim is visibly shocked. Soon, the scene shifts to the interior of a building where hunters begin to grumble upon seeing the cleaning team. One of them vents that the cleaning team first took their budget, now their jobs, and is now even taking over their responsibilities. Another sarcastically blames their lack of connections, suggesting that favoritism is at play. The hallway buzzes with tension as more hunters gossip. Soyeon checks on Park, who assures her he's fine. Just then, one of the hunters gathers everyone, asking them to take their seats since the meeting is about to begin. Kim silently fumes, noting how low-ranked hunters are testing his patience. He turns to Minju, pointing out that multi-zone dungeons are usually assigned to Team 12, and the people present don't belong to her team. Minju explains that while it was originally her team's project, she heard that Soo-young handed it over to Team 2. Confused, Kim questions why Soo-young would give up such a major operation after months of preparation. Minju replies that the team leaders held an exchange, but she doesn't know the specifics. At that moment, Dongbin enters the room and greets everyone. Kim immediately recognizes him and thinks to himself, "That bastard, Dongbin Lim." Kim grew increasingly angry as he remembered how Dongbin used to steal credit for his performances during his rookie days. Dongbin had built a reputation for hijacking others' projects, and now he was the leader of Strategy and Operation Team 2. Minju noticed something off and asked Kim about it. Kim warned her to stay away from Dongbin, believing she would gain nothing from associating with him. Later, Dongbin began the briefing. He explained that the estimated time for the conquest was 24 hours. He reminded everyone that a multi-zone dungeon couldn't be exited unless all zones were cleared. Those who wanted out had until the end of the day to inform him. The operation would take place in the Yeongdongpo area and would be split into 3 groups. He warned that during the 24-hour-long operation, subjugated monsters would begin to decompose, releasing gas that could interfere with the conquest. This issue would be handled by Cleaning Team 3. Since it was a large-scale project, the team would receive a generous bonus. Dongbin then addressed the cleaners directly, asking if they could handle it. Park responded with confidence. Kim considered the offer seriously. It was an excellent opportunity to work alongside the strategy and operation team, earn a bonus, and start cleanup right after the conquest. It was highly efficient. More importantly, it was a chance for Kim to unlock a new skill. He feared that rejecting this joint operation might mean missing out forever, as their team was just a cleaning crew. But despite the temptation, Kim ultimately declined. He informed Dongbin that they wouldn't participate. Dongbin was visibly shocked. A short while later, Soyeon asked Sang-hyuk why Kim would reject such a rare opportunity. Sang-hyuk agreed. It seemed like a dream job with a bonus, and he wondered if Kim had simply backed out. Minju asked Park for his opinion. Park believed Kim was just trying to protect the team. Minju agreed, realizing that although the briefing made it sound simple, the operation was actually dangerous. It was a continuous 24-hour task packed with endless monsters. Park began to cry, understanding that Kim must have predicted the danger and rejected the offer to shield them from blindly accepting it. Soyeon also became emotional, realizing Kim had their best interests at heart. Sang-hyuk admitted that Kim often made his intentions hard to understand, and he had assumed Kim just didn't want to take part. Park, now smiling through his tears, stated that their team would not participate. Inspired, Minju announced she was considering backing out too. Park and Soyeon were shocked. Soyeon reminded her that she was the team leader. Park asked if she was doing this only because of them. Minju clarified that she had never felt confident about the role. Deep down, she didn't feel skilled enough to lead yet. But more importantly, her master had warned her not to get involved with Dongbin. Taking her master's advice felt like the right decision. Park smiled and said that made sense. Meanwhile, in a quieter moment, Soo-young thought about Dongbin and laughed to himself. He felt Dongbin got what he deserved and wished he had seen his shocked face in person. When he met Dongbin, he teased him, mentioning how badly things had gone. He reminded Dongbin that he had warned him. Kim wasn't an easy target and likely understood everything from the start. Dongbin, annoyed, told Soo-young not to pick a fight. Soo-young asked if he really thought his team could handle the operation alone. He had even heard Minju Kim had backed out. Dongbin, clearly irritated, told him to back off. Soo-young, still amused, asked if Dongbin planned to hire the civilian guild, only to reveal that he had already spent 200 million won of the budget. Enraged, Dongbin asked to borrow Soo-young's connections and demanded access to the required personnel list. The list, issued under the authority of the general manager, was essentially a forced operational order. Disobedience could result in disciplinary action or even enforced resignation. Fuming, Dongbin cursed Kim for daring to anger him despite being so inexperienced. A few days after the earlier incident, Kim learned that Dongbin Lim had managed to obtain the required personnel list. This left both Minju's team and Kim's team with no choice but to join the conquest. As the cleaning team arrived at the dungeon site, they noticed a large crowd gathered in front. The size of the conquest had clearly drawn media attention. Seeing this, some team members commented on the situation. Sang-hyuk wondered if they might get interviewed. Park joked that he would have shaved had he known the media would be present, while Soyeon regretted not showering that morning. Kim noticed Minju looking tense and reminded her of her position as the leader of the conquest. He told her to stay brave and act confident, warning that nervousness in a hunter could make citizens uneasy. He emphasized the need to hold her head high and stay composed, pointing out that real challenges lay ahead during the operation. Minju responded that she usually performed better in real situations. Kim advised her to focus solely on subjugation once inside the dungeon, without worrying about his team. Minju agreed but asked him to keep his radio on just in case. Kim warned her not to call unless she felt she was near death. She acknowledged this with a brief reply. Before entering, Park called for a final supply check. Kim confirmed they had 10 liters each of hydrogen peroxide, diluted hydrochloric acid, and saline. Soyeon added that the vacuum compressor and EVA film compression pack were ready, with no issues in goggles or respirators. Kim also confirmed they had enough food and water. Park stated that although it would be tough, things would go smoothly as long as they followed procedure. He encouraged the team to get pumped up for the mission. Some hunters observing from afar mocked the cleaning team's behavior, saying they looked like they enjoyed making fools of themselves. Meanwhile, Dongbin approached Minju, noting her presence with the cleaning team. He expressed hope for the conquest's success for both of them. Minju politely agreed. Nearby, Soyeon expressed surprise to Kim about Dongbin's presence, assuming he wouldn't attend since Minju was leading. Kim explained that it was rare for the team leader not to lead a conquest, but sometimes they appointed a capable hunter for such tasks. In this case, it was Minju. He admitted that Minju was capable of leading, but there was a deeper reason behind Dongbin stepping back. Dongbin lacked field experience and had only ever planned operations. In reality, he had never led a conquest himself and was used to piggybacking on others. Dongbin reassured Minju that he'd be on site during the operation and offered to handle any problems that arose. Minju respectfully acknowledged his words. However, Dongbin found her tone slightly off and took note of her attitude. Dongbin then addressed the cleaning team, reminding them there should be no delays in their work. Kim calmly assured him that everything was under control. Dongbin, growing irritated, silently challenged Kim's confidence, eager to see how long he could keep up that attitude. With all teams now present, Dongbin instructed Minju to proceed. She agreed and began briefing all the hunters. She reminded everyone that the subjugation would be divided among 3 teams, A, B, and C. Each team would take turns clearing zones in a rotating cycle until the entire dungeon was cleared. She also emphasized the joint operation with the cleaning team and expressed her confidence in their expertise. She added that in case of an emergency, the cleaning team could also be contacted for help. This unexpected line shocked the hunters and even left Dongbin stunned. Kim was equally surprised, questioning her intentions silently. Dongbin quickly corrected her, suggesting she had meant the strategy and operations team should be called in an emergency. Ignoring the tension, Minju unsheathed her sword and addressed all present. She instructed everyone to review the operation details one last time and prepare to begin once ready. With that, the dungeon opened. Kim looked ahead and signaled his team. It was time to start the dungeon cleaning. Inside the dungeon, all monsters had already been eliminated, and the cleaning team had begun their work. Soyeon expressed mild surprise at how manageable things seemed, admitting she was initially worried but now found it better than expected. Kim reminded everyone that despite the large scale of this operation, their role was limited to cleaning. He assured the team that they likely wouldn't even encounter the subjugation squad until the very end. Sang-hyuk seemed disappointed, pointing out that not getting to witness the conquest defeated the purpose of a joint operation. Park shut the idea down, emphasizing that they weren't hunters and needed to stay focused on their assigned duties. He instructed everyone to move on to embalming after disassembling was complete. He stressed the importance of vacuum packing each carcass separately to prevent decomposition before the conquest concluded. Sang-hyuk grumbled, noting it was the 100th time he'd heard that. Park insisted they needed extra caution, given it was a joint operation. Kim reflected internally, explaining that under normal circumstances, monster carcasses would have been incinerated immediately. However, with the conquest still ongoing, they had decided to embalm and vacuum pack the disassembled parts to keep them preserved. Feeling tired already, Sang-hyuk asked Park about lunch. Park reminded him they had just begun. Just then, Soyeon appeared with snacks. She offered chocolate bars to the team, having packed them just in case. Sang-hyuk perked up, surprised to know snacks were available. Soyeon offered one to Kim too, though she apologized for possibly distracting him, knowing how focused he stayed during work. Kim accepted, choosing a strawberry flavor. After their short break, Park urged everyone to get back to work. Kim thought about how, despite it being their first large-scale mission, the initial hours had passed without major issues. Their duties remained routine. However, as time dragged on, the contrast between them and the operation team grew. While the subjugation team proceeded smoothly, the cleaning team began to falter. At the 10-hour mark, fatigue started creeping in. By the 15th hour, Sang-hyuk injured his hand after dozing off, accidentally bursting a vacuum-sealed bag in the process. The team's pace continued to slow, and they gradually fell far behind the subjugation team. 18 hours into the mission, the strategy team contacted the cleaning crew through radio, alerting them that gas levels within the dungeon were rising. They demanded a status report. Park responded apologetically, admitting they were behind schedule. When asked about their current zone, he replied that they were working in Zone 5. The strategy team was shocked, revealing they had already completed Zone 10 and demanding to know why the cleaners were 5 zones behind. Park again apologized, explaining that they intended to take a quick hour-long break before resuming work. The strategy team exploded in frustration, asking if he had lost his mind. With gas levels rising, taking a break was unacceptable. Kim stepped in, explaining that the team was completely exhausted and operating far beyond their limits. He requested that a hold be placed on the subjugation and that the message be relayed to Minju Kim. But the strategy team rejected the request, citing that any delay would affect the projected end time of the conquest. Kim protested, arguing that continuing in their current condition was impossible. No one on the team had the physical capacity to move forward. Still, the strategy team dismissed his concerns, calling it a problem for the cleaners to handle on their own. In frustration, Kim demanded they send hunters who weren't actively working to help the cleaning team catch up. But the strategy team refused, questioning why any hunter should assist with cleaning. At this, Kim lost his temper and demanded to speak to Minju directly. Shortly afterward, Dongbin arrived at the scene and confronted the cleaning team. He scolded them, questioning what they were doing while gas levels continued to rise. He reminded them that they had claimed to have everything under control and accused them of slacking off. He warned them that their behavior bordered on misconduct. Kim, barely holding back his anger, demanded to know Minju's whereabouts. Dongbin dismissed the question, telling Kim it wasn't his business and accusing him of being unreasonable. He reminded Kim again not to interfere with the conquest. Kim snapped, yelling that they had been working nonstop for the past 18 hours without a single break. He asked if Dongbin expected them to function like machines. He stated that they couldn't continue any longer in such a state. Dongbin, unfazed, responded coldly, asking if Kim was giving up now. Dongbin suddenly exploded in rage, yelling about how the entire operation was now at risk because the cleaning team had failed to do their job properly. He reminded everyone that the hunters had worked tirelessly for weeks to prepare, and now their efforts were being wasted. He angrily declared that the team should forget about receiving any bonus. Kim, now clearly frustrated, questioned Dongbin's outburst, but Dongbin continued his tirade, accusing the cleaning team of slacking off, ignoring orders, and abandoning the operation. According to him, they had no idea how important this mission was, and he promised to make sure the cleaning team paid the price for their failures. At that moment, Kim started laughing. Surprised, Dongbin asked what he found so amusing. Kim replied that he had suspected something was off from the beginning. He had wondered why Dongbin was so eager to involve them in the operation. Now it made sense. This had been the plan all along. Dongbin had intended to nitpick every little thing the cleaning team did wrong, just to push them toward disciplinary punishment. Kim called it a cheap tactic, unworthy of a team leader. Dongbin, furious, shouted back, daring Kim to repeat himself. He accused Kim of thinking he was untouchable because of his connections. But Dongbin warned him that even the chairman wouldn't be able to protect someone who abandoned an entire operation. Kim responded calmly. If abandoning the operation was the issue, then what now? Would Dongbin proceed with the conquest despite the dangerously rising gas levels? Frustrated and desperate, Dongbin radioed Minju. He asked if she had a moment to talk. At the time, Minju was in the middle of a fierce fight with a monster and told him she was a little busy. Ignoring her situation, Dongbin urgently reported that the cleaning team had abandoned the operation. He warned that at this rate, everyone could suffocate before the conquest was over. Without waiting for approval, he declared that he would take the lead from now on. Minju asked for clarification, confused by his sudden announcement. Dongbin shouted that she was just a rookie hunter, and this situation was far beyond her capabilities. He demanded that she hand over the authority immediately. Kim, watching this unfold, muttered a sarcastic remark about how Dongbin never changed. Dongbin, infuriated, asked what he just said. Minju then addressed Dongbin directly, asking if it was true that the cleaning team had really abandoned the operation. Kim stepped forward and told her that she should already feel like she was nearing death herself. Hearing this, Minju froze for a moment, shaken by the realization. Dongbin snapped again, screaming at her to hurry up and hand over the authority. He accused her of being a fool who thought being a team leader made her important. His anger boiled over as he questioned if she wanted everyone dead just because of her pride. Finally, Minju agreed. She said she would pass the authority. Dongbin laughed loudly, satisfied, thinking he had won. But then, Minju made a surprising announcement. She officially transferred her authority not to Dongbin, but to Cleaner Kim. Declaring it clearly, she handed over command to Junu Kim, the leader of Cleaning Team 3. The entire squad, including Dongbin, was stunned by this unexpected move. Kim then stepped forward and calmly declared that from this moment on, he would be taking command of the operation. As he stood tall, he thought to himself that it was finally time to show his true abilities. Kim confidently announced that from this point forward, he would be taking full command of the operation. Hearing this, Dongbin burst into mocking laughter. He questioned how a mere cleaner like Kim could lead, claiming he was the actual team leader and accusing Kim of overstepping just because of a temporary authority transfer. In response, Kim called out Dongbin's manipulation, making it clear that he understood how authority inside a dungeon outweighed everything else, even rank. Dongbin, surprised, asked how Kim knew all this and wondered if he had been a hunter in the past. Kim, now visibly annoyed, dismissed the question and asked why everyone kept bringing that up, insisting that it didn't matter. But Dongbin insisted it was important. He argued that when a cleaner tried to take command, it put everyone's lives at risk. This situation, he warned, wouldn't just end with disciplinary action. Kim quickly turned Dongbin's logic against him, summarizing that Dongbin wanted him to surrender authority simply because he was a rookie and Dongbin had more experience. Dongbin eagerly confirmed this and offered to cancel any disciplinary action in return for authority. But Kim wasn't swayed. He declared that he didn't care about the punishment. What truly irritated him was how Dongbin's presence brought back memories filled with bitterness and injustice. His anger grew as he accused Dongbin of stealing the credit for others' achievements. Dongbin, confused, denied knowing what Kim was talking about. But Kim wasn't interested in explanations. With a sharp glare, he told Dongbin to sit back and watch, because from now on, he was eliminated from the operation. The declaration left Dongbin stunned. Kim then shut him down completely, mocking him by asking if it was his first time facing disciplinary action. Immediately after, Kim used his radio to broadcast an announcement. He formally introduced himself as Cleaner Junu Kim from Cleaning Team 3 and addressed the entire subjugation squad. He stated that Dongbin Lim had been eliminated from the operation. With Minju Kim having officially transferred her authority, he now held command, and everyone was expected to follow his orders to complete the conquest. Kim didn't waste time. He ordered Teams B and C to assist the cleaning team. The hunters reacted with disbelief. One of them said the order was crossing a line, while another reminded Kim that they were hunters, not janitors. A third hunter insisted they didn't earn their titles just to do cleaning work. Seeing their refusal, Kim immediately declared both Teams B and C eliminated from the operation for non-compliance. His sudden decision left the hunters completely shocked. Without hesitating, Kim tried to contact Team A. Minju responded on the radio, confirming that she could hear him clearly. Kim informed her that a few members had been dismissed, and her team would now have to take on extra work. He asked if they were still in Zone 11. Minju confirmed, but mentioned they were currently dealing with a monster. Kim explained the monster's mechanics in detail. He revealed that the bear-type creature was immune to attacks for 10 minutes after receiving the first hit. He instructed her to place Guardian-class hunters at the front and keep the healers ready with single buff skills. Once the immunity dropped, the monster would likely target whoever stood in front. He advised lining up those who could endure the hit, as the damage wouldn't be too severe, and then immediately striking back with a counterattack. He also asked if she had strengthened her grip with her left hand. Minju replied confidently. Hearing that, Kim gave her the go-ahead. Without delay, Minju turned to her teammates and relayed Kim's plan, signaling the start of their attack. All the hunters began using their skills. As the monster lunged forward, it targeted one hunter, who managed to block the blow using his own ability. Minju then activated her one counter skill and launched a powerful strike directly at the monster. Shortly after, Minju reported back through the radio, confirming that Zone 11 had been cleared. Hearing this, the hunters standing beside Kim were stunned. They couldn't believe what they had just heard and wondered how such a quick victory was even possible. Remaining calm, Kim responded over the radio and declared that the rest of the subjugation would be completed within the next 50 minutes. Kim continued giving precise instructions over the radio. He informed the squad that Zone 12 would be filled with ghost-type monsters, warning them that physical attacks would be useless. He ordered the inspection class to stay back while the magician class was told to unleash their strongest spells rapidly. He then alerted everyone about the upcoming hallucination stage, advising healers to use every bit of their purifying skills. His guidance was clear. No one needed to overexert themselves, but timing their moves right was critical. Witnessing all this, the hunters began to murmur in disbelief. They questioned how someone who was just an ordinary cleaner could lead with such command and accuracy. Suddenly, a voice came through the radio in a panic, declaring the situation impossible. Kim asked what was so impossible. The voice explained that everyone was drained, their powers were weakening fast, and they could no longer perform at full strength. They feared they wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Kim criticized their attitude, questioning how a hunter could fail to take down a single monster. Without hesitation, he told them to hang in there and that he was on his way. Meanwhile, Minju was locked in battle with a powerful monster. As the fight continued, she realized something was off. This monster was nothing like the ones they had previously faced. It absorbed punches without taking damage and, despite its massive size, moved with unbelievable speed. Minju leapt to strike the monster from above, but it caught her by the legs mid-air and slammed her hard onto the ground. Blood spilled from her mouth. As she struggled, Kim arrived at her side and extended a hand toward her. Minju managed a smile, brushing off the injury and claiming she performed better in real combat situations. Kim then asked for her sword. After receiving the weapon, Kim assessed the situation. He recognized the creature as the giant ogre log, a red-level monster, something he hadn't expected to find in this location. Understanding why the others had struggled, he recalled his newly unlocked skill that he had gained through the ongoing project. At that moment, a system prompt appeared, initiating a joint project with another department. Kim activated his skill immediately. The monster charged at Kim, throwing a heavy punch, but he blocked it with ease. In one swift movement, he leapt into the air, positioning himself directly above the monster. Kim activated his Hellfire skill, then combined it with over-immersion and one counter. With the fusion of all three skills, he drove Minju's sword straight into the monster's body. The combined power set the creature ablaze, killing it instantly in a single strike. The watching hunters were left speechless. One of them blurted out in shock, questioning who Kim really was. Minju responded with a smirk, saying he was just a cleaner. But the hunter disagreed, insisting that someone like him shouldn't be called a mere cleaner, and that they should recruit him immediately. Minju calmly suggested they keep their master's abilities a secret. She explained that things like wealth, honor, and power, or by their standards, skills, stats, and weapons, meant nothing to him. What truly mattered to Kim was being exactly where he wanted to be, working alongside the people he cared about. Mincheol was seen listening to a breaking news report. The anchor announced that Dongbin Lim, the team leader of the large-scale Yongdongpo operation, had been eliminated from the conquest. On top of that, reports had surfaced accusing Dongbin of embezzling bonuses meant for other employees. Enraged by the news, Mincheol shouted at Dongbin and Suyong, furious that Dongbin had let himself get eliminated from such a critical operation. Dongbin tried to defend himself, blaming Minju and the cleaner, suggesting they had plotted together. But Mincheol cut him off, accusing him of attempting to steal credit for Minju Kim's performance. Dongbin argued that Mincheol had personally approved the personnel list, trying to shift part of the blame. But Mincheol, losing his patience, grabbed Dongbin by the hair. He reminded Dongbin that he was never a friend to him, and he had only gone easy because of Suyong's seniority. Now that the scandal was public, he made it clear that Dongbin wouldn't get away with it. He ordered Dongbin to write an apology letter while awaiting disciplinary action and told him to leave immediately. Worried, Suyong asked what would happen if Dongbin exposed their plan to the cleaner. In response, Mincheol suggested promoting Minju as the new team leader. Soon, it was reported that Dongbin Lim and his team were placed under disciplinary action. Dongbin himself was suspended from his rank, a punishment that, for a hunter, was as good as being fired. He was swiftly replaced. Later, Soyeon met Minju and congratulated her with a bouquet of flowers for her promotion. Park expressed his confidence in her all along, while Sang-hyuk joked that he'd start bragging about being friends with the operation team leader. Overwhelmed with joy, Minju began tearing up. Soyeon told her not to cry, but Minju insisted it was just a pollen allergy. Kim, watching silently, noted that the flowers were artificial. Minju told them she wanted to visit earlier but had been too busy. Park reassured her not to worry. Soyeon asked if she was officially the captain now. Sungyeok confirmed it with excitement, saying she was now on the same level as Sooyoung Lee. Minju, blushing, humbly denied it, saying Sooyoung had far more experience. She then looked around and noticed how empty the office felt. Kim explained that many hunters had been removed, and there wasn't much that could be done about the emptiness. He asked how many were left on the team. Minju replied that only 17 remained, adding that they were practically outcasts now. That could be the reason the position was handed over to her. Kim told her not to be so modest. He reminded her that not just anyone could become a team leader, and she had every right to take credit. Minju thanked him sincerely. Privately, Kim grumbled in his mind, recalling how he hadn't become a team leader until the age of 30. Meanwhile, Minju was genuinely touched, thinking that her master was truly congratulating her from the heart. She then admitted that it was all thanks to Kim. She might be the team leader now, but in her eyes, the team still belonged to him. Kim warned her to watch what she said and told her never to say that in front of the team. Minju asked why. Kim explained that no hunter would be happy to hear that their team leader was just a cleaner, and reminded her that the team nearly fell apart because of him. Just then, some hunters entered the room, informing Minju that the others would be arriving late. One of them mentioned being hungry and asked if they could have some warm soup for lunch. As they stepped further inside and spotted the cleaning team, they paused in shock. Quickly, the three hunters bowed politely and greeted everyone. One of them introduced himself as Ji Yeon Hong from Strategy and Operation Team 2. The other introduced himself as Jinho Lee. Jinho then walked over to Kim and complimented him for his performance in the last operation. Kim thanked him in return. The new arrivals encouraged Kim to think of them as part of the same team and assured him he could count on their support whenever needed. Perplexed by their attitude, Kim wondered what was wrong with them. Minju, smiling, pointed out how reliable they were. She cheerfully added that not even the headquarters could mess with the cleaning team now. She told Kim that he could finally sit back and focus on his cleaning tasks. Kim, slightly amused, thought to himself that he had almost forgotten. Minju was never a normal team leader to begin with. Minju mentioned that it was about time for someone to arrive. Kim asked who else was coming, and she explained that the support team had sent over a secretary for her. Kim acknowledged it, noting that it made sense now that she was a team leader. Reflecting on the situation, Kim remembered how having a designated secretary was quite helpful during his own time as a strategy team leader. Suddenly, a memory surfaced in his mind. His secretary back then had been manager Ah-Young Lee. She was the only person with him on the night of his death and had spent more time with him than anyone else in the association. He realized she must already be part of the association at this point in time. Kim then asked Minju for the secretary's name, but she said she hadn't heard it yet. Kim decided to let it go, knowing that even if it were her, she wouldn't recognize him in this life. Park laughed and suggested they get going if a guest was about to arrive. Minju said it wasn't necessary, but Park insisted they had work to do. Minju then bid everyone farewell. As Kim opened the gate to leave, he was suddenly greeted by a young woman who introduced herself as Hyeon Song from the support team, assigned as Minju's secretary. Kim, with a serious expression, told her that he clearly wasn't Minju, which left the secretary flustered. Minju, laughing, stepped in and told the secretary that she was the one she was looking for and invited her in. The secretary apologized, admitting she was still new to everything. Park reminded Kim they were running late, prompting Kim to say his goodbyes and head out. As Kim walked away, Hyeon thought to herself that Junwoo Kim looked terrifying. Later that evening, Hyeon appeared completely drained from her first day. She questioned the weight of becoming a secretary just 2 months into the job, feeling overwhelmed. Another woman approached and asked her if her superior had turned out to be worse than expected. Recognizing the woman, Hyeon addressed her as deputy manager Ah-Young Lee. Ah-Young asked about Minju Kim and mentioned she had heard Minju had been appointed as the leader of Strategy Team 2, which had nearly collapsed. Hyeon confirmed it and shared that while Minju seemed like a kind person, she feared she had already fallen out of favor with the general manager. Ah-Young reassured her, saying that being on Min Cheol-soo's bad side usually meant a person was doing their job right. When Hyeon questioned who said that, Ah-Young confidently told her to trust it, wishing her good luck. She also revealed that Minju Kim was quite close to a certain cleaner who had ties to the chairman, Junwoo Kim. She hinted that if Hyeon got on Mr. Kim's good side, she might end up in the chairman's circle. Hyeon quickly dismissed that idea, recalling her first encounter with Junwoo Kim earlier that day. She thought he looked terrifying, like one of those power-hungry types who took advantage of their connections. She remembered how he glared at her when she bumped into him and mistook him for a gangster because of the scar on his nose. In her mind, she was convinced he had never dated anyone in his life. Ah-Young, however, noted that Junwoo Kim seemed to be doing an impressive job with the cleaning team. Not only had he secured a budget expansion, but he had also stood up to hunters who looked down on his team. Still skeptical, Hyeon insisted it was all just a show and was certain he'd crumble at the first sign of real trouble. Ah-Young, intrigued by her reaction, admitted that Hyeon had sparked her curiosity about Junwoo Kim. Inside a dungeon, Kim was busy cleaning while casually singing to himself. Unexpectedly, Minju appeared beside him and started singing as she joined in the work. Surprised, Kim looked at her and questioned her presence, pointing out she should be working elsewhere. But Minju casually replied that she was working. Kim teased her, suggesting her team might be shocked to see their leader involved in such dirty cleaning work. However, when he looked around and noticed her team members happily working alongside the cleaning team, Kim was left speechless. Behind him, Park chuckled at the scene. Just then, Soyeon called out, asking for help with disinfecting. The hunters enthusiastically offered assistance, declaring that Strategy Team 2 and Cleaning Team 3 were united in both body and spirit. Seeing their unity, Kim decided not to interfere and let them carry on. Later, Kim turned to Minju, sensing she had come for more than just cleaning. Minju admitted she was facing issues while planning the operation for the month. Their team had a quota of 10 dungeons, but with the current number of members, she couldn't figure out how to achieve it. Kim immediately recognized it as an overquota for such a small team. Minju added that any dungeon below blue level wouldn't count toward the quota, which frustrated her further. Kim corrected her, stating it was a lie. The headquarters arbitrarily sets the required minimum level. Navy-level dungeons should count for blue-level quotas. He advised her to split the team into 3 groups and complete 2 conquests per day, 1 during the day and 1 at night. And if things got tough, she should request support team assistance. Minju was relieved and surprised, wondering why she hadn't thought of that earlier. But Kim knew that even seasoned team leaders wouldn't come up with such a strategy, so it was natural for a rookie like her to struggle. Grateful, Minju thanked him, jokingly calling him master, saying she felt like she kept owing him favors. Kim brushed it off and told her to leave if her business was done, assuring her his team would finish the cleaning. Minju then asked if he found her bothersome. Kim clarified that it wasn't her, but her secretary, as he glanced toward Hyeyeon, who had been secretly watching them. Minju was surprised and assumed Kim and Hyeyeon already knew each other. Kim denied it, saying they had only met for the first time yesterday. Laughing, Minju confessed that the way they stared at each other had made her think Hyeyeon might be his ex-girlfriend. Kim didn't take it well and playfully threatened her for the remark. Just then, Hyeyeon approached Minju, reminding her they had to leave soon to make it to the executive operation meeting. Minju, relaxed, said they still had time and suggested grabbing a bite before heading off. She asked Hyeyeon to go ahead and make a lunch reservation since there was no phone service in the dungeon. Hyeyeon happily agreed and said she would make a reservation for 9 people, including the cleaning team, before cheerfully heading out. Watching her leave, Kim dryly noted that there was service inside the dungeon. Minju acknowledged that, explaining she only wanted a private word with him. Minju then asked Kim if he had any connections in the support team. When he said no, she revealed that the support team had contacted her, asking for a secret meeting with him, and strangely, they requested that Hyeyeon not be informed. Kim was puzzled by this. He wondered if they were anxious because he had been responsible for the downfall of the strategy team, and perhaps they just wanted to warn him not to interfere with them. He decided there was no rush to respond to their message. As he prepared to leave, Kim told Minju to let them know he would come see them himself when he had time. Minju agreed to pass on the message. Once the work was complete, Park praised the hunters, thanking them for finishing earlier than scheduled thanks to their hard work. Minju responded by offering more help the next day. To celebrate her promotion, she insisted that lunch was on her, bringing joy and excitement to the entire team. The next day, inside a dungeon, a young boy was seen running in fear, desperately calling for his older brother and admitting how scared he was. Suddenly, a voice responded from ahead, guiding him toward it. The boy looked forward and, with hope, asked if it was really his brother. But the figure in front of him simply asked for help. Approaching closer, the boy checked if the person was all right. In a terrifying twist, the figure suddenly appeared right in front of the boy's face, revealing itself as a ghost-like monster. The boy was horrified and froze in fear. Shortly after, breaking news flashed across television screens. Around 12:30 p.m., a young boy had been attacked by a monster after accidentally entering a dungeon. Fortunately, he sustained only minor injuries, but he was hospitalized and currently awaiting test results at AB Hospital. According to the boy's statement, he had no difficulty entering the dungeon since it wasn't barricaded or marked as off-limits. As the news played, Minchul confronted Minju and demanded an explanation. Minju, visibly nervous, clarified that the dungeon was supposed to be off-limits to civilians. But Minchul, filled with rage, shouted back, saying he already knew that. He wanted to know why the area hadn't been barricaded, pointing out that it was a basic safety protocol. Kim reflected on how it was nothing short of a miracle that they had found the boy on their way home. If they had been even a second later, both the boy and their entire team might have suffered the consequences. Minchul continued shouting, urging someone to take responsibility before the situation spiraled out of control. In response, Kim stepped forward and admitted it was his fault. He explained that he had intended to barricade the dungeon but forgot and left for lunch instead. Minju immediately tried to object, saying she had seen Kim set up the barricades herself the night before. But Kim quietly told her to lower her voice, reminding her that they were speaking to the general manager. Minchul then asked if it was the cleaning team's fault, to which Kim quickly clarified that it wasn't. He took full responsibility and insisted it was his personal mistake, not the team's. Suspicious, Minchul pressed further, questioning why Kim would shoulder all the blame. But Kim remained calm, stating that he was simply telling the truth. He even offered to attend a press conference the next day and publicly admit his negligence as a team leader. Min-cheol accepted the offer and said the press would arrive at 9 the next morning. However, he reminded Kim that with such a major accident, even he wouldn't be able to avoid disciplinary action. With that, the meeting ended. Outside, Minju was furious. She confronted Kim, demanding to know what he thought he was doing. Kim, confused, asked her what she meant. Minju shouted in frustration, repeating that she had seen him put up the barricades herself. She understood that he was trying to protect his team, but insisted that what he was doing wasn't right. She pointed out how strange the entire situation was. A boy had entered the dungeon with no difficulty, and a monster had been left behind even though the dungeon had supposedly been cleared. Nothing about the incident made sense. To her, it felt like a setup. She couldn't understand why Kim would take all the blame when he had done nothing wrong. Kim responded coldly, asking what could even be done. Even if it was a setup, was there any way they could catch the true culprits overnight before the press conference? The attack clearly wasn't planned by amateurs. Catching them in time was nearly impossible. He told Minju he would take the fall and urged her to stay quiet. Internally, Kim admitted that Minju was right. The whole situation was a setup. The monster Vega wasn't even a type that usually appeared in that dungeon. It was clear someone had already tampered with the place long before the boy entered. But despite all that, Kim felt it didn't matter, especially since he was about to unlock a new skill without paying any cost. Back in her office, Minju sat in deep thought. She tried to make sense of the situation. Perhaps someone had accidentally removed the barricade, but a child entering the dungeon just 30 minutes before its perish, purely by chance, seemed too far-fetched. On top of that, a monster had been left behind in a dungeon that had already been subjugated. Everything pointed toward a setup, clearly meant to frame Kim and the cleaning team. Judging by the circumstances, Minju suspected the culprit had to be an insider. Yet, despite knowing this, she felt powerless and frustrated at her own inability to help. Just then, her hunters entered and shared their concerns. They had heard about what had happened and believed it was unfair for Junwoo Kim to take the blame for something he didn't do. He had once helped them during a joint project, and now they wanted to return the favor by going after the real culprit. Determined, Minju stood up and declared that all operations would be put on hold. Strategy Team 2 would now focus entirely on searching for the true culprit. She stated that even if they failed to meet this month's quota, the mission would proceed. If anyone had objections, they could speak now. But the hunters responded without hesitation. They claimed they were already walking on eggshells and didn't care about quotas. They had always been treated like outcasts, and this was their chance to stand for something. As the group prepared to leave, Deputy Manager Ayong arrived and introduced herself. The scene then shifted to a few hours earlier. Minju's secretary, visibly stressed, lamented that the incident had to happen just 3 days after she started working. Ayong tried to comfort her, telling her it wasn't her fault, just bad luck. She then asked what would happen next. The secretary replied that Kim had decided to go public at the press conference scheduled for the next day. Ayong was surprised. A person with ties to the chairman making such a mistake was highly unusual. The secretary clarified that Junwoo Kim had taken full responsibility, but Miss Minju Kim had claimed he wasn't at fault. Ayong was shocked to hear this. A man willingly taking the blame for something he didn't do? She wondered if such a person could still exist in their corrupted association. She silently reflected on Kim. Despite having the chairman watching over him, he still carried himself with dignity. Perhaps, she thought, a man like that could bring change to their broken system. She turned to the secretary and suggested they keep things between themselves and help Kim and his team. Back in the present, Minju asked what brought the support team all the way to her office. Ayong explained they were there to help. She had heard from Hye-yeon about the incident involving Junwoo Kim and knew Minju was investigating the truth behind it. When asked if there had been any progress, Minju admitted they had only just started and were planning to visit the scene of the accident to retrieve surveillance footage from that night. Ayong warned that would have been a waste of time. Even members of the association couldn't access surveillance footage without police permission. Moreover, there weren't many cameras in the slums where the accident took place. Time was running out and Minju would have returned empty-handed. When asked for alternatives, Ayong shared a lead. Several cars had been in the vicinity that night, and fortunately, all of them had dash cams. Hye-yeon was currently working on tracking them down. She had remembered the license plates while heading out to make a lunch reservation. Once the cars were located, they could access the dashcam footage using an official written notice. Minju thanked her sincerely for the help. Ayong accepted, but clarified they weren't doing this for free. Minju expressed concern, saying she had just become team leader less than 3 days ago and didn't have anything to offer the support team in return. Ayong shifted the conversation, asking about Junwoo Kim. She wanted to know what kind of person he really was. Rumors swirled around him. Some claimed he was a freelance hunter, a spy from a civilian guild, or even someone connected to the chairman. Ayong was curious to know which rumors were true. Minju was surprised. She had never heard any such rumors. Ah-hyung was in disbelief. The rumors had been spreading throughout the headquarters for weeks. Minju, a little embarrassed, admitted that she didn't have anyone to talk to within the association. Ah-hyung was taken aback. She couldn't believe Minju might actually think Junwoo Kim was just a cleaner. She smiled slightly at the thought. Watching her laugh, The hunters misinterpreted her reaction and assumed she was mocking Minju for not having any friends. They felt bad for their boss. Ah-young, still in thought, reflected on what she had learned. A cleaner who willingly took responsibility for something he didn't do, and a team leader who rallied her entire team to help him. She wondered how such pure-hearted people even existed in their corrupted association. She agreed to help, but requested a small favor in return. She asked Minju to arrange a meeting with Junwoo Kim for her in the future. Then, Ah-young turned to Minju's secretary over the phone and asked if they had located the cars. Minju, now excited and energized, responded eagerly. The search for the truth had finally begun. Kim stood alone, adjusting his suit as he prepared for the upcoming press conference. Just then, he received a call from Soyeon. Her voice held concern as she mentioned Minju hadn't been answering her calls. She had been trying to reach her for something important. Kim assumed Minju was probably at work, subjugating dungeons, but Soyeon quickly reminded him that today was actually Minju's day off. Still calm, Kim reassured her that team leaders often remained unreachable during busy periods. However, Soyeon hesitated, explaining that she wasn't sure if it was a big deal or not, but a text message Minju had sent her earlier was bothering her. According to the message, Minju had promised she would save Kim and asked Soyeon to convince him to cooperate if she didn't show up on time. This revelation shocked Kim. When Soyeon asked again if something was going on, Kim didn't respond directly. Instead, he simply said he would call her later, ending the call abruptly. Immediately afterward, Kim dialed Minju, wondering what she was up to. When she picked up, she told him she was currently en route to Daejeon. This confused Kim, as Daejeon wasn't even within her assigned jurisdiction. But Minju clarified that she was going there to find evidence proving that the incident wasn't Kim's fault. 4 vehicles with dashcams had been parked in front of the dungeon on the night of the accident, and she was now on her way to retrieve those crucial footages. She expected to collect all of them by evening. Kim, clearly frustrated and anxious, reminded her that he had asked her to stay still and remain silent. But Minju, unwilling to back down, stated she couldn't just do nothing when she owed him so much. She promised to help no matter what. As Kim hung up, he thought to himself that her silence would have actually helped him unlock another skill. But once Minju set her mind to something, there was no stopping her. Realizing he had to intervene before she found the evidence, Kim told her to send him the vehicle locations. Minju quickly agreed and promised to text the details. Once the call ended, Kim collapsed to the ground, pressing his forehead against the pavement in frustration. Nearby onlookers stared in alarm, mistaking him for someone who had lost his mind. Suddenly, a system notification appeared. Combat mode was now being activated. Without wasting another moment, Kim triggered his hyperboost skill and dashed away from the scene at high speed. While moving, he muttered to himself about how he was being tested yet again. The scene then shifted to a medical center, where Ah-young had just arrived. Approaching a man inside, she identified herself as a representative from the association and asked if he was the guardian of the child involved in the incident. The man, cold and defensive, made it clear he had nothing to say to anyone from the association. Ah-young informed him that the dungeon cleaning team would be speaking at a press conference the next morning. Although the investigation was still ongoing, early findings indicated the cleaning team wasn't responsible for the accident. She emphasized that unless he came forward with the truth, the cleaning team would face unjust punishment. The man, however, responded with a bitter smile. To him, this was good news. He didn't just want the cleaning team to suffer. He specifically wanted Junwoo Kim to be dragged down and ruined. In a quiet parking lot in Daejeon, a man sat inside his car when a sudden knock on the window startled him. Looking outside, he was shocked to see Kim standing there, looking like a lifeless zombie. Kim introduced himself as a representative from the association and requested the man's cooperation. The man quickly insisted he was just a normal civilian. Ignoring his plea, Kim angrily smashed the car's dashcam and began walking away. The man yelled after him, demanding an explanation for destroying his camera. Kim simply responded that he would receive compensation from the next association personnel. Then, Kim dropped to the ground again, slamming his forehead against the pavement to trigger his skill. With that, he vanished swiftly from the scene. Moments later, Minju and a team of hunters arrived at the same location. Minju approached the same man and introduced herself as another association member. But the man, now furious, lashed out, yelling at her and accusing the entire association of misconduct. He threatened legal action for their reckless behavior. Minju apologized calmly. One of the hunters inspecting the car called out to her, revealing that the dashcam was already broken. Minju realized that Kim had reached every vehicle before them and destroyed all the evidence. She couldn't understand how he had anticipated their moves so precisely. Meanwhile, back at the medical center, Ah-young continued speaking with the man whose brother had been involved in the incident. She questioned whether Junwoo Kim's involvement was due to an order from the association. The man scoffed at the idea. After losing his job as a hunter, he had no reason to trust the association. They hadn't even offered an apology for what happened to his brother, and now they were questioning his motives. Ah-young attempted to reassure him, saying they were exploring every option for compensation. But the man snapped back, accusing her of following a hollow procedure. He made it clear he had nothing left to say to anyone from the association. Nearby people began murmuring among themselves, speculating that Ah-young had come to negotiate a settlement, Noticing the growing attention, Young decided to leave, realizing she would need to return when fewer ears were around. After she left, the man approached his younger brother's bedside. He expressed his frustration and exhaustion from dealing with the association. But the boy, clearly tired of being confined, asked if they could stop now. He was fed up with staying inside all day and hated the constant medical treatments. His older brother snapped at him, reminding him of the promise they had made, to take revenge. He told him to be patient, as everything would be over by tomorrow. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the room. Kim had entered silently through the window, observing the scene with a cold expression. He pieced everything together aloud. No child could have lifted such a heavy barricade alone, and a former hunter like this man could have easily repositioned a half-dead monster. It was now clear to Kim. The man had thrown his younger brother into the dungeon just to sabotage him. The boy was struck by the realization. The man his brother had targeted for revenge was actually the one who had saved his life. Overcome with rage, the older brother screamed at Kim, blaming him for everything. He ranted about losing his job and having no one else to support the family. Kim shouted back, reminding him that he was the one who had picked this fight in the first place. Kim then placed a hand on the man's shoulder. Rather than retaliate, he said he would let him go. In his mind, Kim saw no reason to cause more chaos now, especially when he could unlock a new skill tomorrow thanks to this very incident. As he turned to leave, Kim advised the man to stay low until tomorrow and warned him not to let others carry grudges. It could get ugly. Before walking out, he told him to be kind to his younger brother. After Kim left, the younger boy looked at his brother with surprise and said that Kim had just forgiven them. The next day at 9 a.m., the press center of the Association of Supernatural Ability Management at the Seoul headquarters filled with anticipation. A formal statement was scheduled, delivered by cleaner Junwoo Kim from Cleaning Team 3. Facing the crowd, Kim introduced himself and openly acknowledged his role in the recent accident. He took full responsibility, stating that the incident was a result of leaving the dungeon unsupervised and unbarricaded. He declared that he would bear all consequences for the tragic event. In his thoughts, Kim felt victorious. Despite facing resistance from low-level officials and a novice team leader, he had carried out his plan. Now he was ready for his next skill to unlock. Suddenly, Park stepped forward, interrupting Kim's moment. Kim was shocked by Park's appearance. When asked how he knew, Park explained that Miss Hyeon Song had informed him about the statement. Kim tried to dismiss the interruption, saying what needed to be said had already been said. But Park insisted, asking Kim to move aside, claiming that since Kim had done so much for the team, it was now his turn to take the burden. Kim questioned the point of taking honor from a tragic accident. Yet Park addressed everyone, introducing himself as the leader of Cleaning Team 3. He made it clear that as the team leader, it was his responsibility to shoulder any mistakes made by his members, and thus, the blame should fall on him. At that moment, Sung-hyuk joined the scene, pointing out that blaming only one person wouldn't absolve the seniors who failed to guide the juniors properly. Soyeon appeared soon after, surprising Kim further. She claimed responsibility as the one who had trained Kim. Then Sung-hyuk added that it was his fault for failing to understand someone as reckless as Kim. Kim grew frustrated. He couldn't understand why everyone insisted on getting in his way. He had come too far to let everything fall apart now. A reporter raised the question, was the cleaning team entirely responsible for the accident? In response, all of them began claiming fault simultaneously, creating chaos that made the live audience mock them. Unable to tolerate it, Kim shouted in anger, demanding the reporters to stop and to write down that the fault was solely his. Just then, Minju arrived, bringing along the victimized boy. She introduced herself as the leader of Strategy and Operation Team 2 and said the child had something to say. The boy admitted in front of everyone that he had been curious about the dungeon. He confessed that he had moved the barricade on his own and entered the dungeon, taking full blame for the incident. His apology left the reporters in shock. Minju firmly stated once again that the cleaning team was not at fault. She confirmed that the barricade had been properly placed, as per usual protocol. Elsewhere, the boy's older brother watched this unfold with tears in his eyes. He couldn't believe his brother was covering for him. He doubted that a child could even move such a heavy barricade. Young responded calmly, explaining that children could lie easily, and that the boy kept claiming he had done it all alone just to protect his older brother. Overwhelmed with guilt, the man admitted to himself that he had taken advantage of his kind-hearted little brother in his blind pursuit of revenge. Realizing he didn't deserve such loyalty, he decided to turn himself in and began walking away. The boy watched his brother leaving and broke into tears, remembering their parents. Running to him, he asked if he was going to jail. His brother replied that when someone does wrong, they must face the consequences. The boy, crying, asked if it was because of him. His brother gently denied it, asking him to take care of himself, to stay away from junk food, to get along with his friends, and to stay safe. He promised to return soon. The boy wiped his tears and smiled through them, telling his brother to take care too. Meanwhile, Kim awaited the notification of a new skill, but the system flashed a message. Requirement unfulfilled. Seeing this, Kim silently pleaded for it all to stop. Later, Kim's fourth skill finally unlocked, much to his own surprise. He reflected on how the chaotic scene his team had caused didn't ruin his plans, but instead drew unexpected public attention. Ironically, the public hadn't cared much about the accident itself. What truly caught their eye was the media exposure and perhaps Soyeon's charm. He couldn't help but think that, in the end, things worked out well. Later, Kim stepped out of the room and asked Minju what was going on. Minju introduced him to Ah-young, the person she had mentioned earlier who wished to meet him in person. As Ah-young extended her hand and introduced herself, Kim was taken aback. She looked different, more human, than the secretary he remembered. She was both the witness and the suspect in his past life's death. For now, he decided it was best to remain cautious. Kim shook her hand. Ah-young complimented his morning statement and Kim thanked her. As they sat, she remarked that he didn't seem as charismatic as she had heard. He simply asked if that was necessary. With a smile, she replied that it would be, given what she was about to say. Without wasting words, Ah-young asked how far he intended to rise within the association. Was he aiming to remain just the cleaning team leader? Or did he dream of becoming the chief of the supernatural ability department, or someone even more powerful? Kim pretended not to understand. Ah-young clarified that if he aimed for a higher position, she might be able to help him, perhaps even in taking the general manager's seat from Min Cheol-soo. She explained her discontent with the current hierarchy. The cleaning and support teams were always looked down upon by the headquarters, treated like trash. But then Kim arrived, shaking the very foundation of the association. She found him intriguing from the moment he stepped onto the scene. Kim summarized her proposal bluntly. She wanted him to take over the headquarters with support from her team. Ah-young softened the words, suggesting she only meant to help him expand his influence. They locked eyes for a moment, understanding the weight behind their conversation. She then posed a critical question. Did he really think just the cleaning team and an outcasted strategy team would be enough? Wouldn't it be better to have more allies? She assured him that the support team's help would be substantial. Minju interrupted, questioning whether Ah-young had the authority to speak on behalf of the entire support team. Ah-young confidently replied that she could manage it. Kim then asked just how far this help could go. Ah-young responded that they could provide everything, from manufacturing equipment to intensive care, an offer likely more appealing to the strategy team than the cleaning team. Kim pondered her confidence. Despite not being the support team chief, she carried the weight of her father's influence. Executive Director Doo-sik Lee, one of the few powerful figures in the association. Ah-young had climbed ranks quickly and alongside her father became a strong force within the organization. But their reign wouldn't last. Within 5 years, Doo-sik Lee would be dismissed after falling out of favor while attempting to reform the headquarters. After his downfall, Ah-young would lose her authority and end up working as Kim's secretary, slowly losing her essence and becoming a shadow of her former self. Kim wondered if her offer was truly hers, or part of Doo-sik Lee's long-term scheme. If things went wrong after accepting it, the cleaning and strategy teams could be wiped out entirely. With that thought, Kim stood up and politely declined the offer. Ah-young, clearly surprised, asked for a reason. She hadn't demanded anything in return, only for him to continue his act. Kim calmly replied that while he would keep up his act, he didn't want help from anyone. Ah-young asked if it was about his ego or if she had offended him. Kim, still unsure of her role in his past life's death, felt it was too early to fully trust her. He clarified that it wasn't ego or offense. He simply wasn't chasing some grand purpose like overturning the association or stealing positions of power. He just wanted to keep cleaning. Hearing this, Ah-young was left stunned and speechless. Kim arrived at the dungeon site and rejoined his team at work. Seeing him, the team members looked relieved and happy. Park turned to him and asked if they should dive right into work. Kim looked around and asked about Sang-hyuk's whereabouts. Park informed him that Sang-hyuk was on vacation starting today. This surprised Kim, and he asked if Sang-hyuk was unwell. Park explained that Sang-hyuk had gone to pick up his older sister, who had just arrived in Korea. She was a hunter affiliated with the International Association and had entered the country because of an unspecified situation. Since she was the only family Sang-hyuk had, Park had encouraged him to take as many days off as he needed. Hearing this, Kim reflected silently. A cleaner with a sister working as a hunter for the International Association must have faced his own struggles. He then confirmed that only the 3 of them would be handling the duties for the week. Park chuckled, mentioning that it was about time Sang-hyuk took a break, and suggested they begin the cleaning job at double pace. Inside the dungeon, the team got to work, performing their routine cleaning tasks. As they worked, another person stood silently among them, observing and taking notes. Once the job was done and they began to head out, they noticed the stranger following them. All 3 turned back, surprised, asking who he was. Someone even admitted to mistaking him for Sang-hyuk all this time. The man laughed and introduced himself as Sang-chan Koo from the Center Daily News. He announced that he would be covering a story on Cleaning Team 3. Kim expressed confusion, noting that they hadn't received any notice regarding a news article. Sang-chan explained that he had been granted direct permission from the headquarters, though it had taken some effort to get it. Kim questioned the sudden interest in covering their team. Sang-chan clarified that it was due to the official statement released the previous day. Public curiosity about the cleaning team had surged, especially with rumors suggesting that they were the real deal and received special attention from the association. However, most people had no idea what their work actually entailed, and that's why he believed this was the perfect opportunity to highlight their contributions through a feature article. Soyeon saw the benefit in gaining public recognition and even suggested that this might attract new recruits. Park, on the other hand, expressed concern. Their work wasn't something that most people found appealing, and he feared it might push people further away. Kim agreed with Park's point. Suddenly, an idea struck Kim. He asked Sungchan whether job-specific articles ever led to a rise in applicants. Sungchan replied that while such articles could temporarily attract people, it wasn't always desirable. It might lead the public to think the job was easy and open to anyone. He assured Kim that he would avoid creating that impression. To his surprise, Kim laughed and told him to go ahead and make it seem as easy as possible so that people believed it was totally doable. As long as Sungchan promised to keep that tone, he was free to write whatever he wanted. Excited, Sungchan confirmed and promised to make it sound so easy that even kids would want to do it. Kim smiled to himself, thinking that Min Cheol-soo's weak schemes would never work against him. Back at the office, Soo-young questioned Min Cheol about the decision to allow media coverage of the cleaning team. He worried that the team might gain even more influence. But Min Cheol dismissed the concern, confident that it wouldn't happen. According to him, their job involved dismembering monsters in toxic dungeons and cleaning up unknown blood. Hardly the kind of thing that would win public favor. Soo-young agreed, acknowledging Min Cheol's far-sighted thinking. Min Cheol admitted that his intent behind approving the article was simply to remind the cleaning team of their low status. Suddenly, Min Cheol paused and asked if he had ever mentioned the news article to the cleaning team. Kim and his team were heading back after completing their dungeon cleaning work, while reporter Sangchan continued to chatter nonstop. The constant talking had started irritating everyone around him. Kim, in his thoughts, grew increasingly frustrated, wondering when the man would finally stop. He knew that if it weren't for the skill he was waiting to unlock, Sangchan wouldn't have lasted this long. Still, Kim reminded himself that he needed the new recruit that might come from this upcoming article. As the team reached the corpse of a boss monster, Sangchan was taken aback by the sheer sight of it. Kim, grinning at the fresh kill, pulled out his knife with excitement. For him, this was the part he truly enjoyed, disassembling monsters. He invited Sangchan to try it, but the reporter was stunned at the thought. The team then got to work, cutting into the beast with expert precision. Sangchan, unable to handle the scene, went completely silent and collapsed to the floor in shock. Park and Soyeon warned him in a slightly eerie tone to be careful, reminding him of the dangers of the dungeon. Moments later, Sangchan fainted on the spot. Kim glanced at him and realized that so much for hoping the article would be any good. Sometime later, Sangchan had recovered and was scribbling notes for his report. He confirmed the details he'd learned. The team was understaffed, had only 2 hours to clean each dungeon, and was often assigned 3 to 4 dungeons per day. On top of that, they weren't even allowed to use the cafeteria until recently. Hearing all this, Kim tried to defend the job, saying it became manageable with time. But deep down, he knew he had to come up with something fast. Something that made the role of a dungeon cleaner sound more appealing. At that moment, Park reminded Kim that it was his first payday. This immediately gave Kim a new idea. If not the work, maybe the money could attract interest. Even if the job was tough, perhaps the salary could bring in some candidates. Especially with the bonus from the joint operation, the amount might look decent enough. Curious, Kim checked his phone. He had worked 300 hours that month, yet his total pay, including the bonus, was only 3.5 million won. The realization hit hard. It was merely 1% of what he used to earn as a hunter. Meanwhile, Park appeared satisfied with the payout, saying it was more than expected. Soyeon agreed, noting that the bonus helped. Looking at Sangchan, Kim could tell exactly what he was thinking. The reporter's expression said it all. No one would want this job for such a small paycheck. Kim realized that if he didn't act now, even the most desperate people wouldn't apply after reading the article. With a sudden burst of confidence, Kim mentioned that only half the pay had been deposited and that their team was paid weekly, not monthly. Both Park and Soyeon were shocked by the claim, but Sangchan seemed convinced, saying that now it all made sense. Kim backed up the statement confidently, implying that the pay added up to about 7 million won per month. Sangchan was impressed and noted that such a figure exceeded the average salary from major companies. That kind of money was sure to attract public attention. As Sangchan smiled, Park leaned in and questioned Kim's reasoning. Soyeon reminded him that they couldn't lie about their salaries. Park added that if people found out the truth, they'd never manage to get new recruits. Soyeon urged Kim to admit he was joking. But Kim, without hesitation, stated that he was telling the truth. Inside his office, Min Cheol was on a call with Soo-young, expressing his frustration. He declared that he was done with the cleaning team, calling Junwoo Kim a pure nutjob. According to him, Kim had no purpose or cause and was only surviving thanks to the chairman's backing. He admitted he couldn't figure Kim out. Soo-young suggested maybe Kim was doing it for the sake of the cleaning team. But Min Cheol dismissed the idea, finding it absurd that anyone would go to such lengths for a good-for-nothing cleaning crew. He insisted it was best to stay away from someone so unpredictable and swore he would never cross paths with Kim again. Just then, Kim entered the office. Surprised, Min-cheol asked what brought him in. Kim calmly said he needed a raise. Min-cheol, baffled, reminded him that it had only been a month since he joined and that his contract as a temporary employee hadn't expired yet. Still, he asked how much more Kim wanted. Kim replied that he wanted double the pay. The request angered Min-cheol. He questioned Kim's reasoning, pointing out that his current pay was already higher than most temporary workers. Kim admitted the numbers weren't bad, but argued they weren't enough for the level of work required. Min-cheol, after a moment, agreed that Kim's case seemed reasonable. But then Kim clarified. He wanted double the pay not just for himself, but for the entire cleaning team. Min-cheol lost his temper again, accusing Kim of targeting him out of spite. He found the demand ridiculous, saying even regular companies wouldn't approve such a thing, especially for someone who wasn't even a professional. Kim silently noted that Min-cheol was more patient than he appeared. Then, Min-cheol composed himself and stated that such a big issue was beyond his authority and would need to be handled by the board of directors. He admitted that while Kim was trying to push him, he couldn't fulfill this request on his own. Kim realized Min-cheol was right. Talking about a salary raise at this stage was premature. He had hoped to unlock 2 skills at once, but now saw that he had rushed things. Just then, the executive director stormed into the office, angrily questioning Min-cheol about scheduling all the subjugation work for Operation Team 1. He stopped upon noticing Kim and acknowledged his presence with a smile. Kim excused himself, saying he was about to leave. The director smiled and let him go, but called out to stop him. Approaching Kim, he took a selfie with him and introduced himself as a fan. He confirmed Kim's identity as the cleaner from Cleaning Team 3 and compared meeting him to how his daughter must have felt as a celebrity fan. Kim recognized him as Executive Director Doo-sik Lee, still a powerful figure in the association. Though he had tried to avoid him, it seemed inevitable. He was surprised to learn that Ah-young, the director's daughter, was once a die-hard celebrity fan. Curious, Kim asked how the executive director knew about him. Doo-sik explained that Kim was quite popular in the headquarters. People talked about how he helped the cleaning team and even suspended Dongbin Lim from an operation. There were even rumors that Kim had connections across the headquarters, especially through Operation Team 2, and that he might be aiming to take over the headquarters. When asked about his visit to Min-cheol's office, Kim's earlier demand for a raise was mentioned. Doo-sik, amused, offered that since he was a member of the board, Kim should have asked him directly. He admitted that everyone knew the cleaning team was absurdly underpaid. Kim asked if the director could make it happen. Doo-sik responded that he couldn't make the decision alone. Kim immediately guessed the director wanted something in return. Impressed, Doo-sik confirmed it. He explained that the report season was approaching, and the control team had arranged at least 100 subjugations for Operation Team 1, all in favor of Min-cheol's acquaintance, Soo-young Lee. Doo-sik believed that Operation Team 2 was basically under Kim's control. Kim denied it, saying it was ridiculous to think a mere cleaner controlled an operation team. But Doo-sik didn't care about titles, hunter or cleaner. It was all the same to him. What he wanted were results. He offered to bring Kim's request to the board if Kim could prove his worth. Doo-sik proposed that Kim cooperate with Operation Team 2 and outperform Operation Team 1 during this evaluation season. He knew Kim had led the last joint operation and believed he could pull it off again. If Kim succeeded, Doo-sik would have a solid reason to push the raise at the board meeting. A few days later, Kim gathered his teammates inside Minju's office. Minju asked what the call was about. Kim casually stated that it was nothing serious, but since it was evaluation season for the operation teams, starting today, Operation Team 2 would be working together with the cleaning team to aim for first place. Junwoo Kim asked Minju how the preparations were going. Minju, visibly nervous, admitted that things weren't going well. Meeting the quota was already overwhelming, especially with Team 1 enjoying the full support of Min Cheol-soo and Team 3 having recruited freelance hunters. Kim expressed his expectations clearly. He wanted them to give a strong performance this season. They had his full support, and everything was already planned. It was their chance to prove everyone wrong and show that they weren't the outcasted, worthless team people believed them to be. He asked if they were in. Minju, relieved and excited, agreed without hesitation. The other hunters also responded with firm support, saying there was no reason to refuse help from Junwoo Kim. Kim acknowledged their response with approval. He explained that the evaluation period took a toll on the cleaning teams too. They were the ones who cleaned up after the subjugated dungeons, and it wasn't just about the number of subjugations. What truly mattered was that the work was done systematically. For what they were about to do, perfect coordination between the operation and cleaning teams was essential. Minju realized that it was going to be a joint operation between both teams. Kim then revealed that there was another team involved, one he hadn't mentioned yet. At that moment, Ah-young entered and confronted Kim. She reminded him that the last time they spoke, he had coldly rejected her offer. She made it clear that she wouldn't have bothered coming if it were anyone else. A ship that had already sailed didn't return for nothing. Kim quietly acknowledged her words. Ah Young warned him that she held grudges. Kim reflected internally, knowing that this operation couldn't be carried out by just the operation and cleaning teams. That was why he had to swallow his pride and ask Ah Young Lee for help. With a smile, Ah Young lightened the mood and asked how she could help. Kim laid out the plan. If other cleaning teams delayed their work, there would be no choice but to reduce the number of subjugations, and that would be their opportunity. They had to use every method possible to get ahead. The support team needed to provide A+ level or higher weapons, consumables, and hunters. These needed to be checked and maintained every 2 days. A command system had to be set up to manage all movements. Additionally, the cleaning team required a plasma cutting machine. Ah Young was surprised by the complexity of the plan. She questioned why he was going to such lengths just to achieve an adequate rank. Kim made his intention clear. He wasn't aiming for an average rank. He refused to lose to a useless team leader who lacked operational knowledge or to others who believed that numbers guaranteed success. His goal was to secure first place. Ah Young then revealed that the control team had leaked all information about dungeon appearances to Team 1. Even if they joined forces, they couldn't surpass the advantage of that knowledge. But Kim told her not to worry. Ah Young pointed out that they had no information about the date, time, or location of dungeon appearances. Kim responded confidently, saying he had the senses for that. A dungeon was about to appear at any moment. Ah Young was confused by what he meant by senses. Suddenly, the reporter interrupted the meeting, surprising Kim. He asked him how long he had been standing there. The reporter questioned whether the cleaning team usually led joint operations of such scale. Kim thought to himself that probably they didn't. Moments later, a strange sound caught everyone's attention. Kim announced that this was the dungeon he had mentioned earlier. Those who wanted to join were welcome, and those who didn't could leave. He instructed the support team to prepare the equipment immediately. The scene shifted to the support team's base, where Ah Young instructed her team to make full use of surveillance cameras to prevent path conflicts. She inquired about the cutting machines and weaponry status. A team member nervously reported that they were running low on materials and suggested halting equipment production. Ah Young reminded them that any delay on their side would disrupt the other team's plans. She asked if they had contacted the Material Control Office. The team member replied that they had, but the office claimed to be short on supplies too. Ah Young shouted in frustration, refusing to believe their excuse. She accused them of hoarding supplies for another team. If they didn't cooperate, she ordered her team to take the materials by force if necessary. Minju's secretary hesitated and asked if this was the right thing to do, warning that Team 1 would surely notice. Ah Young responded with determination. Team 1 had cheated them for too long with the help of headquarters. She would take full responsibility. The plan had to move forward. They couldn't miss this one chance to strike back at Min Chil-soo and Soo-young Lee. Inside the dungeon, the scene shifts to a chaotic battlefield where countless skeletons and their formidable boss confront the hunters. Among the threats stands a towering iron skeleton, posing a serious challenge. Kim instantly recognizes the danger, noting how this foe rivals the last giant ogre in strength. He instructs his team to strike the beast with a single blow skill aimed at the cartilage in its neck, while he himself targets one of the larger skeletons. The rest are tasked with handling the remaining enemies. Minju steps up, announcing that their team is moving in according to the formation they had practiced. Without hesitation, one hunter darts forward, crouching and extending his hand. Minju uses this as a springboard, placing her foot on the hunter's hand as he launches her into the air. Simultaneously, the other hunters unleash support attacks on the giant skeleton. Mid-air, Minju activates her sword skill, slashing through the monster's neck in one swift, precise motion. Impressed by the execution, Kim internally acknowledges the strength of this so-called outcasted team. He's surprised at how much Minju Kim has improved. As he looks up, he notices the massive skeleton's body toppling toward him, causing a moment of tension for Minju. Reacting quickly, Kim flips a nearby sword into the air with his foot and activates his skill, Over Immersion. Another giant skeleton lunges at him, but Kim uses his foot to launch the airborne sword with a hyperboost skill. The blade pierces clean through the skeleton's neck, dropping it instantly. Park suddenly appears, flying in on a drone, catching Kim's attention. He comments with enthusiasm on the high quality of equipment provided by the support team. Kim, not too pleased with Park's dramatic entrance, questions his timing internally. Meanwhile, Park begins disassembling with a cutting machine, marveling at its efficiency and jokingly suggesting they keep it. With just one of these, he claims they could clean 10 dungeons a day. Kim shuts down the idea, stating that the machines were imported at a high cost for weapon manufacturing. At that moment, Ah Young contacts Kim via radio, reporting a premonitory sign of a dungeon appearance in Seochodong. She confirms that the equipment and support teams are already en route and urges them to move quickly. Kim, confident, declares that the first place is practically guaranteed. The scene transitions smoothly to Minchiel's office, where a subordinate presents him with a report showing the cumulative number of subjugated dungeons. Team 1 and Team 2 are tied at 22 each, Team 3 trails with 19, and Team 4 lags far behind with 10. The subordinate warns that while the numbers are currently equal, Team 2's momentum suggests they will soon surpass Team 1 significantly. Furious, Mincheol erupts in anger, slamming his fist and cursing. He suspects Junwoo Kim is staging a performance out of spite, furious that his request for a raise was ignored. In a fit of rage, he lashes out at Kim, branding him a bastard. The focus shifts to Operation Team 1, attacking under the command of Mincheol Soo and Soo-young Lee. In the midst of the battle against monsters, Soo-young yells at the hunters, urging them to stop standing around and use every skill they've got. He then scolds the cleaning team, reminding Cleaning Team 1 that they're falling behind and need to move quickly. Meanwhile, the joint alliance of Operation Team 2 and Cleaning Team 3 continues their attack under Junwoo Kim's lead. Kim identifies that the monster they're fighting grows stronger over time, so the strategy is to finish it quickly with a swift strike. The hunters engage the monster aggressively. Once the fight settles, Kim tells his teammates they still have time left before the time limit, so they decide to take a short break. Park confirms they have an hour to spare. Next, the alliance of Operation Team 3 and a group of freelance hunters also gets into action. After 3 days of intense operations, the final results are revealed. Operation Team 1 scores 24. Team 2 takes the lead with 25. Team 3 ends with 12, and Team 4 remains at 10. The outcome infuriates Mincheol. One of his subordinates informs him that the support team has joined forces with Operation Team 2 and Cleaning Team 3. Shocked, Mincheol questions this unexpected alliance. He reflects on the authority held by Deputy Manager Ah-young Lee within the support team and suspects whether Director Lee might be involved. However, he quickly dismisses the thought, believing that despite Director Lee's disapproval of Team 1 favoritism, he wouldn't disown the team that represents the association. His subordinate warns that if the control team has indeed allied with those two teams, they could form an independent division capable of handling subjugations on their own. Concerned, Mincheol turns to Chang Hyun, standing nearby, and asks if he plans to collaborate with the cleaning team. Chang Hyun Pyeon, the leader of the control team, firmly denies the idea. Mincheol immediately issues an order that from this moment on, no subjugation permissions are to be granted. Chang Hyun, surprised, asks for clarification, but Mincheol sternly repeats that Operation Team 2 must not be granted any subjugation permissions. Elsewhere, Minju contacts Kim via radio to report that the subjugation in Seochodong has been completed. Since they still have time left, she asks if they should proceed to the next dungeon. Kim declines, reminding her that their plan limits them to 5 dungeons per day. He stresses the importance of saving energy for the final push. Kim then turns to Mr. Sang-chan, asking his opinion on how manageable everything looks. He points out how disassembly is handled by cutting machines, disinfecting by drones, and their role is just to observe, making the task appear quite simple. Sang-chan disagrees, reminding him that nothing was provided for free. Everything had to be requested and planned in advance, and the rented equipment would need to be returned soon. Placing a hand on Sang-chan's shoulder, Kim expresses his hope to see new recruits and asks for help. Sang-chan agrees, assuring him he's got it covered. Kim thinks to himself that their success so far is largely thanks to Sang-chan, while Sang-chan internally wishes Kim had just said that from the beginning. Suddenly, Ah-young contacts Kim through radio with an urgent report. She informs him that Operation Team 1 has now been granted priority access to all dungeon subjugations. Kim realizes that Mincheol Soo has aligned himself with the control team, but even with that, the decision feels excessive. Ah-young further explains that Team 1's subjugation count has tripled. They are now rushing through dungeons so recklessly that cleaning teams can't keep up. Already, 3 dungeons have been left uncleared, and the number is only expected to grow. Kim understands the deeper implications. If a dungeon is left uncleaned, the resulting gas emissions can be lethal, even with a hazmat suit. More concerning is the disruption of the subjugation cleaning sequence. If things continue this way, they might be forced to clean dungeons still crawling with live monsters. Though Kim doesn't personally mind, he knows it will affect the others. He also recognizes what's at stake. Failing to secure first place would mean losing the chance for a pay raise and positive media coverage. Despite Team 1's lead, their pace is unsustainable. If his team can push hard at the end, there's still a chance to catch up. Realizing the urgency, Kim immediately reaches out to the operation and support teams to coordinate the next steps. At the Yeouido administrative headquarters of the Association of Supernatural Ability Management, Director Dusik received a message on his phone. It alerted him that 3 unclean dungeons had been spotted in the Seoul region. Reading this, Dusik grew furious, cursing Mincheol and accusing him of acting like he owned the entire headquarters. He couldn't understand how Mincheol planned to handle all the unclean dungeons. Dusik regretted having let him off the hook just because he was an elite, feeling betrayed. Dusik immediately asked Miss Yu to call the leader of the control team, but before she could respond, Ah-young walked in and interrupted, saying there was no need for that. Dusik reminded her that she wasn't supposed to approach him during working hours. Young assured him that her visit was work-related. When Dusik demanded respect, she responded with a smirk, recalling how he never cleaned the dishes at home. She quickly shifted back to business, saying there was no need to cancel the operation over a few unclean dungeons. Dusik was confused, pointing out the dangers of unclean dungeons. But Young explained that all members of their alliance, including Operation Team 3, the Support Team, and Cleaning Team 3, had already been dispatched to handle them. Although she wasn't happy about it, she said it was the captain's order. She also delivered a message from the captain. He admitted to losing this time. That left Dusik wondering when the two of them had even met. Young teased him for being left out of the loop and then excused herself, saying she had no time to lounge around. She had cleaning duties to attend to and walked away. Dusik chuckled at the situation, calling them all nut jobs. But deep down, he was troubled. He thought about the captain's message, "I lose this time," and pondered its meaning. It felt like the captain was confident he would win next time. Dusik was stunned that a mere cleaner had managed to dispatch both the operation and support teams, and that everyone had followed his orders without hesitation. Turning serious, Dusik asked Miss Lee to contact the chairman and initiate a disciplinary committee. As he left, he reflected that Min Cheol-soo had once again been bested by the cleaning team. Meanwhile, inside Min Cheol-soo's office, tension ran high. Min Cheol asked if they should shut down the operation before things spiraled further out of control. Chang Hyun, standing nearby, silently questioned how Min Cheol planned to fix the mess he had created. Min Cheol turned to Secretary Cha, asking what would happen if the operation was called off now. Secretary Cha warned that there would be an uproar, not only within the board but among the other teams as well. The moment Min Cheol began meddling with the subjugation distributions, the rest of the teams had started turning against him. Chang Hyun realized they had gone too far to turn things around. He regretted ever joining hands with Min Cheol in the first place. Just then, a flustered staff member entered and reported that Operation Team 2 and the entire support team had been dispatched to the cleaning team. Secretary Cha saw this as a positive turn, stating there would be no problem continuing the operation as planned. Chang Hyun was shocked to learn that Operation Team 2 had backed out of the performance game. He also remembered that the support team included Executive Director Dusik Lee's daughter. Secretary Cha insisted it was a blessing in disguise. With Operation Team 2 out of the way, first place was now within their reach, and they wouldn't have to deal with the unclean dungeons. But Chang Hyun panicked. To him, this wasn't a blessing at all. It meant they had lost their only chance to make things right. The scene shifts to the cleaning team hard at work. Young, assisting alongside them, struggles and wonders why the material is so difficult to cut through. Minju calmly advises her not to force it, suggesting that she should slice along the texture instead. She explains that normally they wipe off excess blood during the process, but due to the current time crunch, it's better to prioritize disassembly. Despite Young being new to this, Minju acknowledges that she's doing quite well. Curious, Young questions how Minju knows so much despite being from the operation team. Minju reveals that she's assisted the cleaning team several times before. Feeling slightly left out, Young laments being excluded again. But Minju clarifies that she didn't even know Young back then. Young then lightens the mood by joking, and Minju silently finds her a bit odd. Kim arrives and reminds everyone to finish up quickly before the dungeon closes. With the cleanup almost done, the team prepares to leave. As they walk, Minju notices something off and asks Kim if something's wrong. Kim admits feeling guilty. He had promised to lead the team to first place but had to go back on his word, and now he feels bad for putting them through so much. Minju responds with a cheerful tone, saying she didn't realize Kim cared so much. She reassures him that they wouldn't have stuck to the original plan anyway, and that if first place had really mattered to them, they wouldn't have rushed over when the cleaning team needed backup. Kim acknowledges that nobody in the group is exactly normal. Minju then brings up their score, assuming they're far behind, especially since she spent 4 whole days assisting with cleaning duties. Kim confirms it. However, Minju reminds him they still have 3 weeks left and suggests picking up where they left off. Young agrees, saying her team won't mind working a few extra hours. Smiling, Kim gathers the team and encourages them to keep going, hoping they're not too late. As they step through the dungeon gate, they're greeted by Director Dusik standing outside. Dusik informs them that they're already too late. The operation is over. Due to one performance-obsessed fool, things reached this point, and now the control team has revoked all operation permits. Shocked, Kim asks for confirmation, and Dusik clarifies that Operation Team 2 has come in second place. That's the final result. While the team celebrates the result with joy, Kim feels disappointed. Second place is meaningless to him if it won't help unlock his new skill. Dusik, grinning, teases Kim, saying he shouldn't consider this a win even if the team did great. Kim, frustrated, suspects Dusik is trying to provoke him. However, Dusik sincerely thanks everyone for their efforts, admitting that without them, the situation could have gone much worse. He promises to hold Min Cheol accountable for the chaos. Placing a hand on Kim's shoulder, Dusik tells him they need to talk, asking him to visit the office when he gets a chance. Kim, however, already knows what this is about. Just like in his past life, Dusik likely wants him to help reform the headquarters. But this time, Kim has no intention of going along with it. Later, Park congratulates everyone for their hard work. Soyeon playfully says goodbye, but Ah-young stops them. She insists that no one should leave on an empty stomach and suggests they all go out for a staff dinner. The group cheers in excitement. Park and Soyeon invite Kim to join them, reminding him not to back out this time. Kim agrees to come along. That night, the team enjoys their time together, eating and drinking as they celebrate. Watching the lively scene, Kim thinks to himself that he probably shouldn't have come after all. After the incident, a disciplinary committee was formed. Soo-young Lee admitted he helped with the subjugation but claimed he was unaware of any favoritism toward Team 1. His defense worked, and he walked away with just a warning. Min Chil-soo gave an even more absurd excuse, saying he favored the elite Team 1 to uphold the association's reputation, but claimed he never expected the control team to take it too far. He received a pay cut, and even though it was minor, the fact that the general manager himself faced such a penalty showed how little Dusik Lee cared about the consequences. The leader of the control team was also reprimanded and, unexpectedly, sent Kim a personal apology. Eventually, the entire issue was resolved and brought to a close. Later, Kim met with Ah-young. She confronted him, frustrated that she still hadn't received any compensation for helping during the operation. Kim reminded her that she seemed to have volunteered purely out of goodwill. But Ah-young sharply pointed out that he had practically begged her for help and promised anything in return. When Kim cautiously asked if this had anything to do with Executive Director Dusik Lee, she denied it, though it was clear she hadn't yet mentioned that Dusik was her father. Kim, already aware from the staff dinner, responded nervously. The conversation then shifted. Ah-young revealed that the headquarters was re-evaluating its view of the cleaning team. Kim assumed this was due to their interference in the operation team's work, which led to Team 2 landing second place. But Ah-young explained it was actually the opposite. The cleaning team had become a subject of envy. Their second-place finish and the sheer dedication they showed despite giving up performance points had made a strong impression on the association, which had long prioritized numbers. It seemed to her like Kim had planned everything from the beginning, but he didn't understand what she was trying to imply. Ah-young then shared that a new cleaning team would soon be formed. The incident had made the association realize the true value of the cleaning division. Talks of personnel transfers had already begun. Her condition was simple. Kim had to recruit people suitable for the soon-to-be-formed Cleaning Team 6. Kim questioned her authority, to which she revealed that hiring a few new recruits could be done by the team leader, and Kim had just been promoted to that very role. Kim was shocked. He couldn't understand how a rookie of just 2 months could be promoted to team leader, especially while someone like Mr. Park was still around. He questioned the association's discipline. Ah-young, unfazed, explained that Mr. Park would be promoted to the newly created position of Cleaning Team Manager. This shift had clearly been orchestrated by Dusik Lee. She even mentioned they had initially considered offering Kim the manager position, but knowing he'd refuse, they dropped the idea. Internally, Kim didn't dislike the idea of becoming a team leader. It aligned with his long-term goal of unlocking new skills, though he found the position to be quite a hassle. He then asked what personal stake Ah-young had in the recruitment process. She brushed it off, saying it didn't matter to her, but suggested it would be fun to have interesting people on the team. Quoting a saying about talent recognizing genius, she advised Kim to keep an eye out for capable individuals, whether from private guilds or off the streets. Kim, however, felt there was no need for such efforts. He had already arranged for a reporter who once covered their team to write an article that made the cleaning job sound effortless. He believed that once it was published, applicants would start lining up. Ah-young burst his bubble, revealing that the article had already been released. Surprised, Kim quickly checked his phone and was furious, realizing he hadn't been informed as promised. Kim came across an article that left him fuming with rage. It painted a picture of the dungeon cleaning team, once viewed as mere post-battle janitors, in a whole new light. The article described them as the frontliners of the association, those who cleaned after dungeon subjugations for greater efficiency. It highlighted how the cleaning team disassembled monster carcasses, managed toxic byproducts, and worked daily in dangerous conditions, risking exposure to poison and toxic gas. The piece emphasized the severe staff shortage, intense workload, and exhausting hours, portraying the job as one of the most demanding. But even more surprising was the revelation that their role extended far beyond just cleaning. With the strategy team undergoing evaluation, the workload had spilled over, and Junwoo Kim from Cleaning Team 3 had taken charge, leading a joint operation. The article claimed that the cleaning team didn't just support, they coordinated. They collaborated with all departments, prioritizing efficiency and stability, and were now seen as the heart of the association, the true strategy and planning team. Despite the low wages, the article insisted that exceptional abilities were required for the job. It declared the cleaning team as the association's front line, with Junwoo Kim's leadership and camaraderie becoming a source of inspiration. The article praised him as a man of character, a true leader of this era. Reading this, Kim's anger boiled over. Without a second thought, he texted Kim Sang-chan, demanding an explanation for the article. In response, Sang-chan simply sent a heart emoji. Ah-young, observing the situation, casually commented that the article turned out better than expected. She pointed out how public opinion had shifted, with people now calling the cleaning team the special operations team. Those who once scorned them had begun to see their true worth. However, she added that despite the glowing praise, no one had applied to join the cleaning team yet. The job was still described as extremely demanding and low-paying, so it wasn't surprising that no new applicants had stepped forward. Kim, overwhelmed with frustration, shouted out in rage. Meanwhile, in another part of the association, Soo-young was shocked to hear that Junwoo Kim was being promoted to team leader. Min-cheol confirmed it, revealing that a new managerial position was being created for the cleaning team. Soo-young, stunned, wondered who had enough power to make such a move, to which Min-cheol replied that it was Executive Director Doo-sik Lee himself. Min-cheol explained how this decision had stirred a headache for the leadership. Regardless of who would be officially appointed as cleaning team manager, Junwoo Kim would still hold the real authority. The only possible exception, he noted, would be the newly formed Cleaning Team 6. He revealed plans to replicate the success of Team 3 for this new unit. The strategy was to plant a more capable leader, someone from their own side, just as Junwoo had supported Min-joo Kim to grow her influence. They aimed to do the same, but on a larger scale. According to Min-cheol, this new cleaning team would help them regain influence within the association. Soo-young reminded him of his previous claim that he wouldn't interfere with the cleaning team again. But Min-cheol insisted that this wasn't interference. He merely intended to recruit a competent leader. Executive directors Cheol-sik-song and Yoon Young-go had also shown interest in the new cleaning team's leadership role. In fact, they had already begun reaching out to private guilds to scout talented individuals. Soo-young thought about the implications. Planting someone from their side in the cleaning team seemed risky, but not unreasonable. Other teams, Operation Team 2, the support team, and the control team, were already scrambling to align themselves with the cleaning team. At this pace, a new division could form that would surpass the central headquarters in power. For now, everything hinged on who would be selected as the leader of Cleaning Team 6. That decision could shift the foundation of power within the association. Min-cheol, placing a hand on Soo-young's shoulder, instructed him to start searching for freelance hunters in the Gyeonggi-do region. He promised to do his part. Soo-young asked if there were any specific qualifications for the role. Did candidates need experience in cleaning? Min-cheol dismissed the concern, saying the task was simple and required no formal qualifications. All they needed was someone experienced in operations with a high rank. Soo-young, still cautious, asked what would happen if Junwoo Kim showed interest in the new team. Min-cheol confidently responded that it wouldn't matter as long as they found someone more qualified. He belittled Junwoo's experience, calling him a rookie fresher than salad, and doubted his ability to recruit anyone significant. But he emphasized that they couldn't let Junwoo win this time. As these thoughts raced through Soo-young's mind, his eyes caught something unusual: cigarettes lying on the floor. It was the first time he'd seen Min-cheol smoke in 4 years. Kim lay comfortably while sipping tea, finally enjoying some peace now that the evaluation period had ended. He silently cherished the moment, having missed slacking off. Nearby, Min-joo watched him closely, wondering why he was lounging there and assuming he might not have anyone to spend time with. Noticing her stare, Kim asked why she was looking at him that way. Just then, a notification appeared on his phone. Reading it, he learned that a newbie of just 2 months had been promoted to team leader. He knew this would surely stir things up among the others. Min-joo found the promotion reasonable and reminded Kim that with her as the team leader, he shouldn't still be a regular staff member. Kim disagreed, pointing out that organizations didn't work that way. Min-joo then asked about the new recruits for Cleaning Team 6. Kim replied casually that he was handling it. When she asked what he meant, he admitted that he wasn't recruiting anyone, nor did he know anyone suitable for the role. Min-joo concluded that her master really didn't have anyone around him. Kim, in his thoughts, reflected that ever since the joint operation fell apart, he had lost motivation. With the formation of a new team, positions would eventually be filled, which would fulfill his requirements to unlock new skills, so he felt there was no point in putting in unnecessary effort. Min-joo then asked what his recruitment standards would be if he ever chose someone. He hadn't given it much thought, but guessed he'd prefer someone compliant with a pleasant personality. Min-joo found that unexpected and shared that she would look for someone with justice and camaraderie, like him. Kim silently scoffed at the idea. At that moment, Chang-hyun entered the room and asked if cleaner Junwoo Kim was present. Kim asked who he was, and Chang-hyun introduced himself, reminding Kim that he had messaged him earlier. When Min-joo asked what brought him there, Chang-hyun got straight to the point. Visibly shaken, Chang-hyun urged Kim to get involved in forming the new cleaning team. High-ranking figures like General Manager Min Cheol-soo and Executive Directors Yoon Young-go and Cheol-sik-song were all rushing to plant their people in the team. Kim, confused and uncomfortable, asked what he was talking about. Chang-hyun explained that he couldn't stand Min Cheol-soo's group anymore and revealed that the headquarters' eyes were now on the cleaning team. The team had become uncontrollable and desirable, making it a prime target for internal power plays. Kim realized they were all fighting for control over the new team. Chang-hyun confirmed that they were trying to place someone with all-around capabilities, someone like Kim himself. Kim questioned why such a capable person would choose the cleaning team over the operations team, dismissing the idea as ridiculous. Still insistent, Changhyun urged Kim to prepare. He had brought a list of skilled hunters and former strategy leaders, offering to pick recruits based on Kim's choice and their budget. Kim, still trying to understand, asked if he was being asked to choose someone from the list to plant in the team. Changhyun confirmed, adding that it was unofficially decided Kim would become the team leader, and missing this opportunity could shift the power balance across all teams. Kim sensed that Changhyun had fully sided with him now. Still uncertain, he asked when the cleaning team had gained so much influence, admitting he wasn't used to such attention. Changhyun pointed out that managing more teams would be beneficial, but Kim claimed he already had enough on his plate. Changhyun remained hopeful, confident others would be thrilled to see Kim take charge of the new team. Kim dismissed the thought but then paused. On reflection, the offer seemed reasonable. Pleased, Changhyun grabbed Kim's hand in gratitude. At that moment, a system window appeared, displaying a requirement. The dungeon cleaning team's satisfaction rate must exceed 30% to unlock a new skill. With a faintly sinister smile, Kim agreed to take a look at the list. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to Sang-hyuk, who had returned home. Looking around, he complained about the mess. His sister, Yubin Han, sat nearby and sarcastically reminded him that she was still there. Angrily, Sang-hyuk scolded her, asking if she even showered. Since she had returned from America jobless, he insisted she find a new job instead of creating a mess at home. Unbothered, Yubin showed him her phone. She had read about his cleaning team and their involvement in a joint operation. Shocked, Sang-hyuk immediately warned her not to consider joining the cleaning team. Laughing, Yubin replied that he had just told her to find a job. Kim stood in silence, deep in thought. To him, increasing the job satisfaction rate seemed simple. If the work intensity matched the wages and the working environment was decent, satisfaction would naturally rise. But the current cleaning team offered neither, and still, the satisfaction rate stood at 18%. To Kim, it proved how small and simple these people's dreams were. He believed that over time, as a new team formed, the work intensity would lessen. The real issue, however, was the working environment. Only someone who thoroughly understood the job and could empathize with the team could create a suitable environment. That was the kind of person the new team needed. Soon after, someone approached Kim, mentioning that he had a general idea about the association's current situation. The man had heard a new cleaning team was being formed and assumed Kim was looking for a replacement. Since he had left his previous guild and was currently unemployed, he offered to join the team as a favor. But Kim shut him down coldly. According to Kim, it wasn't him asking for help. It was the other way around. In his eyes, people like this should be begging to be part of the team, while he decided whether they were even worthy of being considered. The man was stunned. Kim continued, pointing out that being a former vice leader or holding a high rank meant nothing. If someone was here just to brag about their past in some nameless guild, they were better off joining the strategy team, not the cleaning team. The man, now visibly angry, revealed his name, Taiwan Shin, and demanded if Kim even realized who he was talking to. Kim casually replied that it was good for him. Taiwan lashed out, accusing Kim of letting fame get to his head and relying too much on the association's backing. He warned Kim that he would regret his attitude one day. Kim, unfazed, said he was already regretting it. As Taiwan left in frustration, he muttered that they'd see who would regret things in the end. Kim, now irritated, wondered who Taiwan thought he was lecturing. After all, Taiwan was just an A ranker. All the other applicants were the same. They acted like successful hunters doing a favor by joining the cleaning team, yet none of them seemed competent. Kim was convinced that letting such fools into the cleaning team would be a disaster. He couldn't understand why Changhyun Pyeon had even bothered to compile such a useless list of candidates. Soon after, Kim received a call from Ah-young. She thanked him for all the hard work and said she trusted him to find a good candidate. But Kim was confused. He didn't know what she meant. Ah-young reminded him of their conversation about finding interesting recruits and mentioned that someone named Yubin Han was already at the headquarters waiting to meet him. She asked him to come quickly. Hearing the unfamiliar name, Kim was puzzled. He wondered who this person even was. When he finally met her, Yubin introduced herself. Kim still couldn't recognize her. Ah-young leaned in and quietly asked him how he always managed to find people like her. Kim admitted to himself that he didn't know who she was. Yubin, standing confidently, confirmed Kim's identity and expressed her disappointment. She had expected someone more charismatic. Kim brushed it off and decided to begin the interview. He asked about her previous job with the International Association and why she was now applying for a spot on the cleaning team. Yubin explained that the job seemed within her skill set, but Kim pointed out that she might have been better suited for the strategy team or a private guild. Then, Yubin revealed something surprising. She had been stripped of her hunter status. No longer qualified as a hunter and lacking other skills, she felt this team was her best chance. To her, the cleaning team seemed to do work similar to what she used to handle. She asked if they were currently recruiting. Kim replied that they were, but questioned whether she truly understood the duties of a cleaning team. Yubin confidently said she did, then paused and pointed out that Kim hadn't asked why she had lost her status. Kim told her he wasn't interested. Yubin shared her experience, explaining that in America, cleaning teams only cleaned dungeon byproducts. Kim replied that her understanding seemed accurate. But then Yubin's tone changed. With sudden excitement, she stated that Korean cleaning teams were different. They coordinated and led special operations. They planned and commanded large-scale missions. She was sure of it. Kim was confused by her enthusiasm and wondered what she was talking about. He asked if she had read the article about them. Yubin confirmed that she had. Kim clarified that their team wasn't as grand as she thought. It was the same as in America. They were just a team that cleaned dungeons. Yubin smiled knowingly. She had expected that response. Kim was surprised and asked what she meant. Yubin explained that she had heard the exact same thing when she joined the American branch. They had told her the job was trivial and underpaid. But she had already known it was just a tactic, a test to weed out people who only wanted a spot in the strategy team. She wasn't fooled. She had plenty of experience, and Kim's trick wouldn't work on her. Kim glanced over Yubin's form, and despite thinking she was a total nutjob, he couldn't deny her qualifications. A former upper-tier hunter of the International Association and a berserker class. On paper, there was nothing more to ask of her. But none of it really had anything to do with the cleaning team. Kim doubted she'd be any different from the other overqualified applicants, likely someone with an even bigger ego. She didn't even seem to know what the cleaning team was for. She had talent, sure, just not for this job. Kim made up his mind to reject her. Just then, a memory surfaced. Park had once mentioned that Sang-hyuk's sister was a hunter in the International Association. Connecting the dots, Kim asked Yubin if her brother was Sang-hyuk Han. At once, Yubin panicked and begged him not to reveal her application. With a faint smile, Kim realized it really was her. That was unexpected. But if her brother was on the cleaning team, at least she would respect it. And if she was in the same team as her only family, she'd likely take the job more seriously. The calm didn't last. Suddenly, Sang-hyuk burst in, shouting at Yubin. He reminded her that he had told her not to come. He scoffed at the idea of her joining the cleaning team when she couldn't even clean her own home. Yubin shouted back, saying he told her to find a job. Sang-hyuk was stunned that she would apply at his own workplace. Watching them argue, Kim began to question his decision. Soon after, the scene shifted to the interview panel. 3 judges sat at the front: the HR team leader, general manager Min Chul, and current cleaner Kik. Kim noted that he normally wouldn't have a seat here, but Young Lee had insisted. According to her, it made no sense for the cleaning team to not have a say in selecting its new member. Kim sighed. It was just a recruitment for a cleaner. Why complicate things, especially when every applicant was overqualified? A vice leader of an A-rank guild, a former strategy team leader, and now a former hunter of the International Association. Still, Yubin had become his candidate. She was a peculiar one, no doubt. But how bad could it go? The interview began. The HR team leader posed a question. If a monster proved undefeatable mid-operation, how would each applicant handle it? She asked for answers in turn, beginning with Woo-hyuk Kang. Kang answered confidently. Unless it was a multi-zone dungeon, he would abandon the operation and devise a revised plan to avoid needless casualties. Kim recognized him as Executive Director Yoon Young-go's candidate. It was a well-thought-out answer, fitting for a former strategy team leader. Next came So-min Ro. She argued that abandoning the operation would cause major financial loss, so she would request support from the control team and proceed. Kim acknowledged this was Executive Director Cheol-sik-song's candidate. Her response was ideal, precisely the kind of answer interviewers favored. Then came Taiwan Shin. He said stopping the operation and resuming with a different team would minimize both financial and time losses. Kim thought about how this candidate, presented by General Manager Min Cheol-soo, had been the vice guild leader of the Aries Guild, one of the top 10 in the country. Now a freelance hunter, Taiwan's answer was practically textbook. Kim figured Min Cheol wouldn't have missed the chance to bring him in. Finally, it was Yubin's turn. Min Cheol immediately assumed she was Kim's pick, while the HR team leader recalled her as the former hunter of the International Association. Kim sat back and wondered what her answer would be. Yubin replied that discovering mid-subjugation that a monster couldn't be defeated meant the operation had already gone wrong. She added, without hesitation, that she would rather slit her throat than suffer such embarrassment. The room fell into a stunned silence. Watching the reactions, Kim regretted everything. He thought he must have been out of his mind to choose such a nutjob as his candidate. The scene shifts to a quiet moment where the 3 women, Soyeon, Ah-young, and Minju, are seen relaxing together during their free time. As they chat, Soyeon turns to Ah-young and brings up a rumor, wondering if it's true that all the new cleaning team candidates are former hunters. Meanwhile, Minju, clearly annoyed, wonders why the other 2 are lounging in her office. Ah-young casually confirms Soyeon's statement, explaining that while it's being labeled as the new cleaning team, the actual intention behind it is to recreate Junwoo Kim's team from scratch. Minju finds the move ridiculous, believing the higher-ups are underestimating Kim. She states that replicating his work is not something just anyone can manage. Ah-young agrees and adds that the higher-ups only care about trends, using them to draw attention without genuine regard for the cleaning team itself. She can already imagine the type of candidates brought in, people who will surely try to take over and impose their own ways. Minju expresses her disappointment, thinking the cleaning team was finally getting the recognition it deserved. Ah-young, however, believes that's exactly why Junwoo's candidate must outperform the others, since at least his choice can be trusted. Suddenly, both Minju and Soyeon perk up with excitement, eager to know more about Kim's candidate. Young admits she doesn't know much herself, but describes the person as interesting. The story then transitions back to the ongoing interview. Yubin is now giving her thoughts with little hesitation. She shares how, back in America, all hunters managed their own equipment. She questions the priorities in the Korean system, asking whether the association or the teammates come first. Frustrated, she criticizes the logic of allowing subjugations only after receiving permission and wonders if performance is considered more important than protecting people. Kim silently reflects on her answers, each one more offbeat than the last. He questions how she even made it into the American branch. Though he doesn't mind her failing the interview, he realizes that if she's rejected, the strongest candidate left would be Taiwan Shin. For Kim, that would be the worst outcome, especially when his goal is to raise the job satisfaction rate of the cleaning team. Faced with this dilemma, he considers simply rejecting all the candidates. The HR team leader then suggests wrapping up the interview if there are no further questions. But Kim speaks up. He asks how many parts a centipede-type monster should be cut into during disassembly. The HR leader responds, saying it's not an appropriate question. Kim challenges this, pointing out that the recruitment is for the cleaning team, not for hunters. Therefore, asking cleaning-related questions should be completely valid. His statement leaves the room in silence. Seeing no objections, Kim fires off another question, this time about the most effective method for scrubbing monster slime and human blood off the walls. Taihwan finds the question absurd and says so. That's when Kim slams his hand on the table and rises from his seat, visibly frustrated. He declares that these are basic things everyone should know. He expresses his deep disappointment for ever believing they were suitable for the job. Then, making his stance clear, he says that regardless of what the other interviewers think, to him, all the candidates are disqualified. As the interview comes to an end, Taiwan approaches Kim with a smug expression. He mocks him, expressing disbelief that all that hype was for a mere kid. Kim calmly replies that while he's not entirely satisfied with his candidate, she's still a better option than Taiwan's. Taiwan fires back, claiming this only proves she was the best Kim could come up with. He believes Kim blew the interview and has nothing working in his favor, then confidently tells him to do whatever he wants. As he walks away, he declares that Kim's candidate will never pass the interview because she's far out of her league. Kim watches him go, puzzled by his confidence. Something about Taiwan's certainty feels off, but before he can think more about it, Yubin suddenly appears at his side, startling him. He admits she scared him, and she confronts him about the interview. She complains that he could have at least given her a heads up about the questions and accuses him of embarrassing his own candidate in front of everyone. Kim responds sharply. He asks if America blindly accepts unprepared, incompetent candidates. He reminds her that since she applied voluntarily, it was her responsibility to prepare. If she truly wants the job, she should be willing to put in the effort. Yet she doesn't want her ego hurt. He questions whether she really thought joining the cleaning team would be that easy. Yubin tries to defend herself, but Kim cuts her off. He admits that if it were up to him, he would have failed all the candidates on the spot. However, after some discussion, it's been decided that the process will move forward with a practical interview. As he walks away, he advises her to be ready next time, warning her not to bother showing up if she plans to wing it again. Later, the scene shifts to Yubin at home, fuming with anger. She reflects on the humiliation she just faced. Never before, not even in America, had she been insulted like this. She calls Kim an irritating cleaner. Sang-hyuk, frustrated by the noise, yells at her to stop pounding the pillow. She snaps back, telling him to shut up. He scolds her, reminding her that he had warned her not to take things lightly. He says she should be grateful that Junwoo Kim didn't curse her out directly. Yubin accuses him of siding with Kim just because they're on the same team, but Sang-hyuk insists that it's simply how Kim is. He takes cleaning team matters seriously and never holds back. According to him, she's already fallen out of favor, so she shouldn't get her hopes up. Yubin angrily says she wouldn't accept the offer, even if they asked. Sang-hyuk questions what she plans to do about the practical assignment. She brushes it off, claiming it's none of her concern anymore. Deep down, Yubin reflects that Kim was right. She knows nothing about the cleaning team. If she joins the practical interview now, she'll only make a fool of herself again. Sang-hyuk, half-jokingly, says he would have seriously considered quitting if she had been given the position. Yubin tells him to shut his mouth. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. Yubin asks if he's expecting a delivery. Sang-hyuk says no and isn't expecting any guests either. When they open the door, Minju and Soyeon are standing outside. Soyeon apologizes for the unannounced visit and asks if they can come in. Sang-hyuk, surprised, asks what they're doing there. Soyeon explains that they came to talk about the assignment and hope to offer some help to Yubin. Yubin, confused, asks what they mean by helping her. Minju clarifies that they're referring to the practical assignment and thought Yubin could use some assistance. That's why they brought experts along. Sang-hyuk is stunned when he sees who's behind them. It's Park, the deputy manager, and the leader of the control team. Chang-hyun steps forward and tells Yubin that she must get the job, not just for herself, but for everyone involved. Park, with a smile, offers her some advice on cleaning. Chang-hyun adds that it's all or nothing. Either she lands the position or they all fail together. Yubin is overwhelmed. She silently wonders if it's normal in the Korean Association for so many high-ranking people to gather just to help one person. Then, looking at everyone, Yubin calmly announces her decision. She thanks them for their enthusiasm and support, but says she has decided not to participate in the assignment anymore. Her words leave everyone in shock. A week later, on the day of the practical interview, Yubin arrived in front of the dungeon where Kim was already waiting. He expressed his surprise at seeing her show up. She responded firmly, questioning if he had been hoping she wouldn't come. Kim admitted he had hoped a little. Yubin, clearly annoyed, asked why he had even selected her as a candidate in the first place, insisting that she didn't want to be there either. Kim silently questioned her presence, especially when noticing the confident expression on her face and the dark circles under her eyes. It became evident she had been preparing for this day, though he brushed it off as unimportant. Yubin clarified her purpose for showing up. She had come to get an apology for the insult he hurled at her last time. Kim immediately refused, saying he had only spoken the truth. Yubin assured him she wasn't asking for an apology at that moment, but he made it clear he wouldn't be apologizing later either. Smirking confidently, Yubin replied with certainty that things might turn out differently. Irritated by her attitude, Kim questioned if all Americans behaved that way. Yubin ignored the comment and mentioned the tough week she had, acknowledging that his companions were a passionate group. This confused Kim, as he wondered who she meant by companions. Meanwhile, Minchul stood in front of the dungeon and addressed all the participants through a mic. He reminded them that, as previously informed, the practical assignment would take place inside a real dungeon. Each participant would be accompanied by evaluators. Upon entry, they would face multiple issues, and the assessment would be based on how well they handled those situations. He emphasized the importance of making thoughtful decisions. A candidate asked if the dungeon had already been subjugated. Minchul clarified that since subjugation was part of the assignment, they had purposely selected an active dungeon. He assured them that it wouldn't be a problem since all participants were former hunters. With that, the team began entering the dungeon. Inside, a sudden alert came through. Soo-young informed the group that Strategy Team 4 had requested immediate support. No other teams were available, leaving only the current team as a backup. He asked for a decision. Taiwan immediately took charge, promising to finish the subjugation within 20 minutes and then head out for support. The other candidates agreed, believing it to be a doable plan. Kim silently observed. He noted that most would naturally choose that approach, especially since the candidates were all capable enough to be considered current strategy team leaders. With such skill and confidence, none of them were likely to back down. But he also recognized a hidden flaw. Most of them were unaware that priority assessment was part of the evaluation. If they continued making such misjudgments, he would have a valid reason to fail them all. Then, Yubin objected. She argued that finishing in 20 minutes was unrealistic and suggested they retreat and resume subjugation later. Taiwan dismissed her opinion, questioning how far she could go with such an implausible mindset. Another candidate mocked her, telling her to go home if she lacked the courage. Soo-young, siding with the majority, announced that they would proceed with the subjugation as planned. Yubin grew visibly irritated. Kim, however, was taken aback. He realized that the others had all misunderstood the purpose of the test. The assignment wasn't just about subjugation. Since this was for recruitment into the cleaning team, the real task was to complete both subjugation and cleanup within the 20-minute window. In this scenario, the only correct decision would have been to suggest a retreat. He couldn't understand how Yubin had figured that out so quickly. Her accurate judgment left him wondering what had changed during the past week. Inside the dungeon, the group soon encountered a monster. Without hesitation, all the candidates summoned their weapons in preparation for battle. Leading the attack, Taiwan used his haywire skill to charge at the monster. Another candidate followed, activating his Oberon's Teeth skill to strike. Then, Yubin leapt into the air. Instead of using her sword, she landed a powerful punch straight at the monster, instantly finishing it off. Watching the swift takedown, Minchul acknowledged the skills of these former hunters. The HR team leader expressed her amazement, noting that they had brought down a yellow-level boss in mere minutes. Still, Minchul pointed out that Yubin's technique appeared somewhat unsophisticated compared to the others. The HR team leader began to question if Yubin truly came from the International Association. However, Kim silently disagreed. He recognized that her seemingly simple move was, in fact, a necessary and deliberate action. Suddenly, Kim raised an alert, stating that a new issue had arisen for the cleaning team. All the candidates turned to face him, and Taiwan responded with a confident, eerie smile. The scene then transitioned to an earlier moment. Inside a car, Minchul handed Taiwan a set of guidelines. Taiwan looked confused, asking what they were. Minchul explained it was the official practical assignment guide prepared by Juno Kim, who was himself a cleaner. He warned that pretending wouldn't be enough to pass. Taiwan, surprised, responded that this wasn't what he had been told. He was under the impression that the cleaning team was just a name, and that no actual cleaning would be involved. Minchul clarified that actual cleaning duties would only begin after recruitment. As a current candidate, Taiwan had no way of avoiding the assignment. Though Minchul had considered excluding him, he lacked a valid reason. He assured Taiwan that the guideline would help him pass, especially the final page. When Taiwan glanced at the last page, he was taken aback. Mincheol revealed it was the cleaning assignment created by Juno Kim. It would be announced after the first boss was defeated and was not to be leaked under any circumstances. He reminded Taiwan of his former role as vice guild leader of Ares, confident he could handle both the subjugation and equipment. Mincheol expressed his desire to see Taiwan as the leader of the new team. With a laugh, Taiwan accepted the challenge, seeing it as an easy task. In his mind, he viewed the assignment as perfectly suited to his level of intelligence. Passing would be simple. Back in the present, Kim addressed the candidates once more. Due to delays from the other cleaning teams, the current team would be responsible for cleaning the dungeon. However, the time to support the strategy team was fast approaching. On top of that, all teammates were considered to have died during subjugation, leaving each candidate alone to complete the cleaning task. Hearing this, Taiwan was visibly shocked. He hadn't expected this change in the assignment. Kim then instructed that each candidate would have to step up individually and present a solution. They needed to act fast and complete the task alone within the 20-minute window. Kim smiled darkly, silently admitting he had no intention of presenting the assignment as originally planned. In his mind, he mocked the candidates, believing they were foolish to expect otherwise.